Happy Friday out there. Dean with you, along with Will, Chief Justice. You know such things as the Prop Shop. We were talking a little bit of props before the show. Join the Prop Shop. It's in the RotoGrinders Discord. Discord channel is free. RotoGrinders.com/Discord. And just go to the Prop Shop and say hello. Will's hanging out there all the time, and lots of other sharp people are dropping some of their favorite props. I know you're talking a little bit of prize picks or whatever props happen to be going on in your state. Will, how are things on you for you on a Friday? You're showing me up. You're making me look way too casual here on a Friday, but happy to see you nonetheless.
Yeah, man. From time to time on a Friday, you guys will catch me in these type of clothes. I have a beautiful fiance that I love and care about, and I hang out with her, and so we will spend some time together today. And so it's a show where we get to talk some MLB. It's a little interesting little slate. I like it a ton, and hopefully we can give some tidbits, give some insight to some guys, and ultimately, Dean, the reason we come on this show is to try and help people take down some tournaments. Look, it's nice when the listeners get to hit first place. Some of them aren't running 150 lineups. Some might be running 5. Some are running 8. Some running 40. Any listener that gets to take down first place and we get to help them out, I mean, that's really the great reward. Do I want to win? Absolutely. But when the listener gets to bank it, I feel like I win, and it's incredible. So hopefully someone tonight listening in their car or on the way home from work or going to pick up their kids from daycare can win some life-changing money today.
Yeah, I was saying this the other day with Blender, and you're not going to be surprised what his reaction was. But I was like, yeah, it's a nice little silver lining when your teams just completely are a disaster. It's somebody says they tweet at you and say that whenever we watch the show, we smashed it. Congratulations. Of course it's on them, and it's all they put the lineup together. But it's just, you feel good. It's all right. You know what? Today wasn't a complete wash. Let us know, brother. Let us know on the Twitter. We'll feature you on the show. We'll give you a little bit of highlights. We'll give you a little bit of shine and give you a little congratulations. Let us know in the chat. Let us know on Twitter. That's probably the best way to do so. I see Derek in chat said he got skunked last night. Time to turn it around. Yeah, that's the great thing about DFS, man. Clean slate every single day. I was super sharp yesterday. I pulled the move where I said, we talked about, Tatis on 2K on DK. In my single entry contest, the 121 on DK, I played Xander Bogaerts instead of Tatis, and the ownership was drastically different.
Look at how smart you were, Dean.
Yeah, I still lost. Because I stacked the Padres, and I did not have Outman, who I think he was pretty chalky. I assume he was pretty chalky. He was in my cash lineup, hitting off there. Yeah,
Outman went to town.
He took it. Yeah, he went yard times 2. We were talking pre-show. The Dodgers almost got. I think they got skunked from a run perspective, but a one-hitter today. Drew Smiley, 7 2/3, was throwing a perfect game at 10 strikeouts, and I guess it was a bit of a bleeder from Peralta to break up the no-hitter. So, man, baseball is goofy, man. You would not have expected Smiley to strike out 10 and a one hit the Dodgers. Betts was back today. I guess he played shortstop again. Is that's what I see, at least according to Yahoo?
So. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he played shortstop. In fact, I'm pretty positive he played shortstop because I think that's what they're going to do from here on out.
Man, if you're in a season-long deal, you're getting eligibility all over the place with Betts. Already a spectacular player, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's in our world, and maybe shortstop's not a very thin position. We like him at second. Second's really thin. Tonight, second's pretty gross. We'll talk about it. Speaking of gross, and tonight, the weather, I'm going to go ahead and drop this link in chat. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth, of course, will be on in about an hour or so, give you some clarity on it. Maybe this game will be canceled by then, but currently in Cleveland, a rematch of the 1997 World Series, Miami at Cleveland. It's orange-red. Those are not good colors when it comes to the chances of a game being played. You guys can read this at your own leisure. I think it was like orange-yellow earlier, maybe. Whatever it was, it looks worse now than it did earlier today. This update probably came within the last hour or so. Minnesota seems to look better. Not necessarily better, but just because the game has not been postponed just yet. There is an expectation of snow in Minnesota, but the game hasn't been canceled at this point. So the longer they don't cancel it, I guess the more like they're going to play it. The weather's not going to be spectacular, but it's not like a precipitation issue. Well, I guess, what is snow? Is snow? That's not precipitation. That's rain, right? What would we call snow? Just snow? It's just called snow? Not sure. Not a meteorologist. But
I actually think snow might be a precipitation, but
it might be.
I mean, it's a substance that falls from the sky. But I mean, so rain. So substances that fall from the sky. There's rain. There's hail. There's snow.
Sleet. Yeah, it is. Yeah, according to the chat, I've been overruled.
Precipitation. Yeah.
So TJ's already hit me with 2 daggers. First, he says, like, indirectly, Chief, you look wonderful, which is another way of saying, like, Dean, come on, try to step up your game.
Thank you, TJ. I think TJ knows. I think TJ knows I have, a date night on Friday. So thanks, TJ. Appreciate you, my man.
And then he's saying basically any 5th grader would know that snow is precipitation. I didn't rule it out for the record. I was just sort of thinking out the problem in my head. A reminder that I went to UCF, so that's they get graded a curve as far as the admissions there at University of Central Florida. But learn something new every single day. Is that show still on, that Jeff Foxworthy deal? Probably not, right? The 5th grader thing.
Oh, you're smarter than I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. I could have been a great contestant on that, apparently. So looks pretty dicey in Cleveland. Miami, Cleveland, orange, red. Again, Roth will be on later. Maybe we'll get a cancellation. And it looks like, at least as of right now, since they haven't canceled the game in Minnesota, they're probably going to give it a go. But, stay tuned. And the weather, temperatures in the 30s with winds blowing out 10 to 15 miles per hour. Winds blowing out. But, man, come on, man. That's not a fun. I guess if you're in Minnesota, you're kind of used to that, right? I'm a Florida boy. So, 40 is cold to me. 45, 50 is cold to me. But, yeah, I don't. Do you want to go and watch a baseball game when it's 30 degrees out? I'm not sure.
No, I don't. Because here's why, Dean. So typically, and we do have a big slate, so we will get to it, folks. But when you think about baseball, to me, you're thinking about the types of food you eat at the game: hot dogs, and got your popcorn here, popcorn. Like, you think about all those things you eat outside, right? I don't think anybody wants to eat hot dogs outside, popcorn, and all those things. Like, at this game today, they need to be serving hot cocoa and soup. So it's a different vibe. I don't think. Now, look, true fans are going to show up, Dean. Like, I don't think the stadium's going to be empty. So I'm not saying that, but just mentally for me, man, baseball to me is like, hey, you want to smell the grill going, and that's brutal weather for hot chocolate. Derek, get your soup here, chicken noodle, broccoli and cheddar, clam chowder. Get your soup here, and then they throw it to you in a can that's been heated inside. Wouldn't that be incredible, Steve?
It seems like a terrible idea. There's no way that ends well.
Throwing Campbell's soup cans at people. Here you go. Here's your soup here. Oh God!
One bad call by the umpire, and the game's going to get canceled. It's going to be really ugly. And the real important question, you mentioned popcorn. If your child spills popcorn, are you obligated to pick it up, to clean it up, or you have to wait for the flight attendant?
I'm not getting into this Twitter debacle. I'm not getting dragged into this Twitter debacle. that was man. So welcome to the show, folks. Hopefully you'll stick around, have a good time with us, and we can actually help some guys make some money tonight.
Do hit that like button, do subscribe, do turn on those notifications, all that stuff. It helps us out to beat the old algorithm. It's much appreciated. It's a way of saying thank you for watching the show for free. Crunch Time used to be behind the paywall, but it's no longer. This was always free, so it's not. And it's appropriately priced. I think it's appropriately priced. Weather elsewhere, I'm looking at Weather Edge. You see anything interesting that's popping that's worth noting? We don't really have. It's a weird slate where you have some aces. As far as offense, and I was reading Dave Potts, Cheese's article, he'll be on later as well as Carty, CEO of Bat. It's an odd slate, Will, and this is like you're talking about like helping people out. You got to help me out, man, because I have my thoughts are all sorts of jumbled, and I think there's a lot of spots to go, but I'm not zoned in. I'm not honed in like this is the team I want. I have to have Team X, and I'm not really sure how you feel. I don't know where my single entry contest is going to land. I don't know where my tournament contests are going to land. I'm not even sure where my cash game build is going to go, to be quite honest. I do a lot of stuff after the show as I'm listening to Crunch Time, but do you have a hot take or a strong take or a strong lean? To me, it's just there's a bunch of good places, no spectacular places. Man, I can't imagine not having this team in my single entry. I just feel like I lost already. I don't see it. Do you see that?
No, I don't feel that way. I think I'm with you. I feel like there are a lot of good spots. And so versus, I guess, maybe how I felt, I think maybe yesterday when I was thinking of more mini stacks. And honestly, if you went with the mini stack yesterday, like I talked about, I was talking about like kind of not playing Freddie Freeman and taking like Outman Muncy and then like some sort of a wraparound. If you went with that concept, you probably came out okay because Outman hit 2 home runs, Muncy hit a home run, and hardly anybody else did anything on that team. So you kind of had the guys that you needed with that type of coverage there with how the slate went. On today's slate, I am going to be more full stacking. So for me, a full stack is 4. I don't usually go 5, even on DK. I like more 4 and 4 type stacks, but that's just personal. So I'm not telling you not to do a 5-3. It's just what I like. And then maybe some full 4s, like on a team that you really like, even though we don't feel like there's any spot that's like, ooh, this is it. But if there's a team that you really like for me, let's say I like Texas today. I might 4-stack Texas, and then I might come catch some 2 stacks from some other teams. You get what I'm saying? So I am going to full stack a team, and then I'll piece a couple together. And I might even do like a 4-3 from another team, and then like a really good one-off that's maybe not popular or could be popular. It doesn't matter. But I'm just talking through on a larger slate that's more in line with what I'm probably going to do.
By the way, I see TJ lurking in chat, and despite him just besmirching me so far multiple times, shout out to TJ. More shout out to Spidey. Spidey Bomb was hot yesterday. I believe Alton was a Spidey Bomb, and as well as the Polar Bear, Alonzo. And collectively, I want to say they had three homers. So congratulations to Spider-Man. I'm not sure if he's dropping any bombs today as far as who's going to hit a homer. I guess TJ will speak to that in chat as far as where we're at with our like button. And I don't believe TJ's not on later on. I'm kind of scrolling through and we're looking for for me, like a team total of 5. You're above 5 all of a sudden. Vegas is interested. A little bit below. You don't necessarily have to have. And I think the biggest team total on this board, I want to say, is Philadelphia, 5.62. Baltimore, 5.21 against Michael Lorenzen. Some good teams that are just in tough matchups. Like I love the Braves. I think Braves are one of those teams where you're probably supposed to make a stack of them every single night. But Hunter Brown is legit, uber prospect. I suppose it's possible I'll make a Brave stack, but they're going to be completely unowned. Do like that ballpark, obviously. Texas just barely over 5 as far as their team total against JP Sears, 5.08 if you want to get all technical. The Angels are 5.5, but as always, the tricky part with stacking the Angels when Shohei Ohtani pitches is that the sites don't have the technology. We can send we can send a drone to Mars, but we can't figure this out. Why we can't get the Shohei Ohtani hitting in year 9? What is this, year 6 for Ohtani? One of these days, when he's at like Miguel Cabrera stage in his career, then all of a sudden they're going to figure it out and we're not going to want to play him anyway. That's it as far as the team totals as far as 5. And we usually kind of talk about pitching first anyway, but if you want to give like a screenshot, an overview on this slate, Ohtani, spoiler alert, best pitcher taking the bump. Nola, another really good one as well, also good matchup for him. What is your general overview before we kind of dig in as far as pitchers, and then we'll branch out with stacks later on. We'll put a stack game ranking them 1 through 5.
So with pitching for me, so I have a slightly different view on pitching than I did last night when I did the morning grind after I've done, I guess several more deep dives. So like, for instance, I'm going to talk about FanDuel first just because, I'm going to need at least a pitcher on there. And initially, Dean, I think I felt like I was going to have a ton of Aaron Nola today. And I just don't like what I've seen. I don't like what I've seen on film, just in terms of I've watched him. And I'm saying that because he's a guy that I've wanted to watch because he had such a bad spring training. I just thought, okay, he something's wrong maybe. Can't be this bad. But I've watched a couple starts, and it's still like he's having location problems, Dean, to be honest with you. And so for a guy like him who's been what I consider exceptional over 2 or 3 seasons, for him to be kind of having location problems, I'm actually very concerned about Aaron Nola today. So initially I thought I was going to have tons of Nola because the prices come down. And I still think the right angle is to try to get on board. But I'm actually going to fade Nola today, Dean. So I'm not going to try to say, oh, if you say, well, Chief, I'm playing Aaron Nola, I'm not going to say, oh, you don't need to play him. But personally, just from everything I've seen and kind of looked at statistically for myself, I'm going to take the fade today. And look, if he burns me, like, I get it. I'm actually hoping he can turn it around. But I'm going to be fading him. A guy that I actually like on this slate, at least a fan favorite for me, is John Gray. He's kind of the top of my list. I know he got hit with that comeback and that kind of slowed him down, but I think he's going to have a good game today facing Oakland, very low ISO team. Going to have some strikeouts. He's another guy, Dean, where, prior to that game, he was up to 100 pitches, upper 90s pitches. I like John Gray. John Gray's probably my favorite on both sides for the price, okay? So I'm saying that for the price, and I'm being specific about that because if you're asking me who I think is the best pitcher that has the best matchup, clearly it's Ohtani, okay? So I don't want anybody to overlook that. But for the price on both sides, I really, really, really like John Gray. And so he's a primary target for me tonight.
So running that ownership stuff on DK, we have Ohtani and Nola at basically the same, 39 and 38%. Tyler Mahle getting 22%. John Gray at 21%. By the way, John Gray, I believe he has an extreme pitchers umpire. Extreme hitters umpire. I knew he had an extreme. So extreme hitters umpire. That's not going to chase you away, I imagine, but just worth noting. Other extremes, by the way, as far as umpires we have right now, extreme hitters umpire for Seth Lugo, hitters umpire for JP Sears, Zac Gallen, Freddie Peralta, the aforementioned John Gray, Nick Pavetta. This is all in the lineup HQ tool, by the way, if you guys have a premium. And let's see, extreme pitchers umpire, just one for Disco Stu, Anthony Discofani, and Joey Lucchese. That's Bill Miller, who's very much of a historically a great, pitchers umpire in a great pitchers park. Unfortunately, it's Discofani and Joey Lucchese, but Lucchese really cheap. Disco pretty cheap as well. Just if you want to, go in that barrel. You're talking about Nola this year. Obviously, Nola was spectacular last season. This year's kind of scuffled a bit. I generally like to lean on the bigger sample as instead of like the small sample. But this year, like you said, 20 points, 4% Ks, not spectacular, kind of bad. The walks are pretty good, just 6.5%. And of course, he's facing a really bad Colorado lineup. We stretch it back to last season. You get the bigger sample, 27% Ks, 4% walks. Yeah. Just beautiful.
Can I speak on that, Dean, real quick?
Please.
So look, I know. And so here's the thing. It's trying to balance both sides of the information. This is why I love baseball DFS, because you take this information into account, and we've got projection systems that take this into account. But once again, man, I still like to kind of earlier in the season, Dean, I like to lean on myself a little bit more than the system. And I'm saying that because the system is going to have all this data from, years and years and years and years. And obviously that's going to be weighted more heavily. Like if you walk up to a guy on the street and you say, hey, is Aaron Nola a good pitcher? You're going to say absolutely. But if you ask me that, I'm going to say, yes, he's really good. But right now he's actually not. And you get what I'm saying, Dean? So the system is going to really, I think, stretch those things out the long term, which I totally get. But once again, Dean, we play daily fantasy sports, not yearly fantasy sports. If you want to do that, go play on Yahoo. And I'm not saying that to be. I'm not saying
you can play Yahoo DFS there too.
Yeah. I'm not saying it to be insulting. I'm saying it to say, these slight changes in your mind sometimes can help you make little finite decisions. And then guess what? As Nola takes off after he gets a couple more starts in the middle seat, fine. I'm more than happy to get back on the train. But I said all that to say this. What I don't like, Dean, or what I've seen here, and look, it's just 34 plate appearances. I get it. But lefties, Dean, really struggling right now. 17% K rate, 8% walk rate. Just numbers that aren't like him. 381 WOBA, 258 ISO. And look, this team doesn't have a lot of power, but they are going to throw some lefties at him. He's going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 lefties. I'm so it's just a cause to pause to say, hey, as you can hear, I really want Aaron Nola to be successful because I like him as a pitcher. It's just right now he's not as good as he's been and I'm very concerned. I'm legitimately concerned. So I'm taking the fade. I'm attacking him. Taking some unders on fantasy points on Prize Picks, on his Prize Picks projection, things like that. I feel like I've talked too much about Aaron Nola. Probably have, but I just want to give my general thoughts about it because I do think he's a good pitcher, but something's wrong right now, and I did kind of feel like I'm talking even more. As you can see, I've really done a deep dive. He is having some, like his I think some of the drop on his pitches or something. I've got to go back and read it like I was looking at it, but he's not getting the same, I think, vertical or horizontal movement. I think it's but one of those, it's not happening right now. And I think he's seen a decrease in velocity, a touch, not a lot, but a touch. So yeah, I'm going to shut up, but those are all the reasons, folks. Like, I feel like I'm nerding out, but those are the reasons why I'm really concerned about Aaron Nola. All right, Dean, back to you. I'm being quiet.
No, that was my question. I wanted to know if there was something we can point to that's actionable where you can say, like, his velocity is down. And as you were talking, I jumped over and I was looking at his game log and his average, his velocity. Last start, 91.2. Before that, 91.9. Before that, 90.9. And his first start of the season, 92.6. And if you go to his last 5 starts last season, 93.5, 92.7, 92.9, 93.1. So, he's lost a tick, right?
That's why I said a touch. A touch, yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing you can point to. And I was trying to see if he's been unlucky as well, like maybe from like a batting average and balls in play perspective. This year his BABIP is 348, so that's a little bit unlucky. But he's actually been lucky when it comes to homer and the fly ball, just at 7.1%. So you can sort of argue unlucky and unlucky 2 different ways. But go ahead.
And the other thing too, Dean, is what I like to look at too, it's like simple things. He's been giving up extra base hits. Like, so look, when you're poking him through first and second, up the middle, like little poke throughs where, they just kind of poke one past the defense, I understand. Listen, folks, if you played baseball, or even if you haven't, if guys are getting extra base hits, they've picked up on something. Like, guys don't just hit don't just hit doubles and triples and home runs for nothing. Like, something's going on. And look, I can't pronounce it. Sasakep PG6. Sasakep PG6. He says the Bat X disagrees with the Nola take, and I get it. Like, look, man, I am not in the in the in crowd here. I'm in the minority. I'm someone that thinks something's going on. Most people probably will not think that. Thankfully, people bring me on to share my thoughts. I try to share them honestly, whether popular or not. Clearly, if you don't think anything's wrong, play Aaron Nola. I do think something's wrong, so that's why I'm just trying to share my version of what I've seen along with the data that I've looked at. So that's that.
I hear what you're saying. I'm in the camp more of like I'm still going to play him. And I hear, again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know.
Absolutely. I'm not.
I'm in the camp of I don't know. And also, what I do know is he's facing the Rockies. And I feel pretty confident in saying the Rockies are pretty terrible. Carty will be on later. Yet Nola currently has the highest projection as far as raw points, not even just a salary thing. Raw points projection even more than Ohtani. Those are 1, 2, and you're talking about spending a lot of time talking about this. First of all, we have a lot of time, plenty of time, and secondly, we're talking about a huge decision point, right? As far as pitchers in the slate and ownership, we're talking about the Nola who's 38%. If you're right, like say you're right, or it plays out tonight and you're right, air quotes, however that works, and Nola gets his face punched in or he just does not put up a score that was worth rostering him, you're well ahead a good chunk of the field. And also on Fanduel, I believe he's currently, 24% owned, as is Ohtani. He's like $2K cheaper than Ohtani on Fanduel. So I think he's going to come in more heavily owned than Ohtani. That's where we're at as far as our ownership projection. Molly Gray, Plesac are next. Plesac we don't know because, again, that game might wash out. Looks really, really dicey as of right now. Feel free to throw out names you want us to talk about in chat. By all means, join the conversation. We want it to be a group conversation, and say why you're not talking about so and so. This guy's spectacular. Ask questions, and it's a conversation.
Okay. So, Dean, can I talk about another guy that this is kind of like the tournament special to me, maybe. I think he's going to be on the outside looking in. So, Dean, this is a guy that I actually did not like last night, and as I dug in, now I actually really like him on this slate. It's Zac Gallen. So he's a guy that the bat also – so the bat likes Nola today, doesn't really like Gallen as much. And once again, I think Gallen should have a good game. And look, I'm basing it on recent data, okay? Like, so here's the thing. We don't know when teams are going to break out of a slump, so to speak. And I'm air quoting here. But here's what I do know. As I continue to deep dive after last night's morning grind pod, the Padres are striking out like crazy. Look, now Tatis just got back, so I'm not really ruling him in that group, okay? So let me clear that up. Tatis isn't really included in my analysis here. He literally just came back yesterday. But everyone else has been here. Clearly, Soto isn't striking out. He's going to be a tough out. Manny Machado, 27% K rate. Xander Bogaerts, 10%. He's going to be a tough out. Cronenworth, 22. Carpenter, 31. Ha-Seong Kim, 33. Trent Grisham, 29. And then Austin Nola, 33.3%. And Zac Gallen is here right now at a 28% K rate, a 5.4% walk rate, and a 3.19 xFIP. And he's pretty neutral across both sides of the plate. Now, he's at 30% to lefties and 26% to righties. But generally speaking, he's not like, 30% and then 20%. So I'm going to give him some neutrality there.
The bat, not to interrupt, but the bat has reverse splits. And if you look at his stats back to last year, it kind of confirms that better against lefties than versus righties. So, yeah, I want as many lefties there as possible. Just
right,
go ahead, continue.
Right. And so that's why I'm saying like this season. But once again, I'm trying to win today. And so when you're telling me you get this really big name value team that does have a lot of strikeouts outside of, two guys right now, and I do think they'll come around. Gallen is someone, remember, I did not really like Gallen last night. And as I've combed through, he's someone I actually really like for tournaments. So I think at 10K, he's going to go kind of overlooked here. And, if he can put up anything close to the performances he's had previously, he's going to be in line to help you win a tournament. So once again, look, Carty's my boy. I just have a slightly different approach when it comes to MLB. Clearly, I look at the bat projections. I look at RG projections. I look at a lot of different things, and then I try to make sense of it all with common sense even sometimes. And so right now, I think the Padres are striking out a ton. They've got a lot of name value at the top, Dean, but that's not changing the K rates. It's just name value. I'm playing Zac Gallen today. I think he's a good play.
So whatever ends up being the chalk as far as hitters, like if you want to be different, if you're going to play like a chalk stack, I think Gallen's a great way to do it because what I'm seeing is Gallen's getting like 3% ownership, which is
it's pretty low.
It's just like a matchup thing. He's just as good as Nola, if not, he's right there. He's been better than this season, but like historically, Gallen's a really, really good pitcher. I think it was 3%. Let me just go ahead and confirm and see if that's what we're getting. It's not going to be that much because there's no discount for facing San Diego. Obviously, San Diego, their lineup gets bolstered with the addition of Tatis being back. Who cares? He went over 5 last night. He's still a spectacular hitter, obviously. And on Fanduel, I think it's like really low as well. 1% on Fanduel is our current projection. He's 10K and like absolutely get ahead of that in tournaments. Yeah, I don't know how much I want to pick on him. I wish he was facing a more vulnerable offense, but it's all baked into the ownership. If it's like 1% or 2% or 4%, I think that's spectacular. And if you're running a bunch of lineups, I would feel obligated to comment over on that. What about Ohtani? Are we leaning in on Shohei versus Kansas City? Ohtani this season has been, spectacular. The Royals have not been 32.9% K so far this year. The walk's a little bit too high. Again, small sample stuff, 15.9%. But, if you jump it back to last season, his numbers are spectacular, obviously. The Royals, bad. Ohtani, good. Like, if you just want to dumb it down. It's like green is good, red is bad on plate IQ. Like, that's what I'm doing here with Ohtani. 33.2% strikeouts dating back to last season. Kansas City's lineup is out. And, man, and look at the back end as far as the power. Olivares, Lopez, JBJ, Massey. Look at the ISOs in these players. It's horrific. Where are the power threats on this Kansas City team? Of course, it's Fettuccine Friday, and if you want to play some Benny Linguini, Pasquantino, I suppose you can. Sal Perez, some power in that bat, Witt, Melendez, but it falls off really, really fast. I'm going to play a lot of Ohtani. I don't care what his ownership is. How about yourself?
Yeah, once again, man, I really like Ohtani. I'm kind of in a conundrum because I'm trying to decide how much I want to go over the field. Do you get what I'm saying? Because like the field's going to be well over Ohtani. It's like, well, how far can I go and still get it? So like, I'm going to use FanDuel here. So like with FanDuel, he's projecting around 20%, which is way different, right? Like I'm just going to be playing a handful of pitchers on FanDuel. I'm going to tell you who they are right now. Like I'm going to play Zac Gallen. I'm going to play Shohei Ohtani. I'm going to play where'd he go?
I don't know.
Where'd that game go? Oh, John Gray. Sorry. I was like, where'd he go? I'm going to play some John Gray mostly. Like that's kind of going to be my handful of pitching on FanDuel, and then I'll just kind of let the cards fall where they may. On DK, I have a totally different approach, Dean. But on FanDuel, those are my main three guys.
The chat is asking about Joey Lucchesi. I assume they're talking about mostly for DK as like an SB2. You're not playing Lucchesi on FanDuel, right? Lucchesi's not pitching the majors since 2021 when he was pitching for the Mets. He looks like he's stretched out, right? He threw 6 2/3 his last start. Before that, 5 innings. Before that, 4 innings in AAA for Syracuse. We talked about having Bill Miller, best umpire. We talked about being in the great ballpark. San Francisco, they've struck out a lot this year. A lot of strikeouts in that San Fran lineup, but Lucchesi's not great. Is that something you feel a need to do if you're scraping the barrel? How do you feel about Lucchesi as a cheapie?
On DK, I mean, he's 5,600, I think, Dean. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. That's a very valuable salary for a guy, Dean, in my opinion, stretched out. I think Lucchesi gets at least 15 fantasy points tonight. I think that's valuable. So I like Lucchesi.
Like I genuinely, I don't feel confident about anything, but I think he's got to be in your pool if you're running tournaments, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he lands in he's not going to be my cash lineup. He's not going to be in my single entry. Where do we have him as far as projected ownership? He's going to grab some, right?
Let me say this too, Dean. So one of the things and this isn't data driven. This is more, I guess, experience driven. Like he's not like some random prospect coming in off the street. So that's where I feel a little bit better. Like he was pitched in the major leagues, had an injury. Like we've seen him pitch in San Diego as well. So we're not like completely blind to his skill level. And so when you're telling me he gets to face the Giants today, and that's why I like him, right? So I'm just plugging it in because we hear all the numbers a lot of times, but I feel confident that Lucchesi can go out and pitch a reasonable game because he's been here. This isn't, like I said, he's not a prospect or a project that we're trying to figure out. Is he going to be good? Is he not going to be good? And we still don't know that, but I'm saying we've seen him pitch enough to know that I think he can come out and have a reasonable performance tonight against the Giants, who have been striking out, a ton. I feel like I'm talking too much today, Dean. I'm going to try to temper my.
No, you're just fine, man. You're talking plenty. I'm trying to see if I can. Like again, he has not pitched in the majors since 2021.
Yeah.
And I just don't know, man. I don't know what we're gonna get, but he's cheap enough. And I think you said 6. Did you say 6'4"? I believe he's 5'4". He's even cheaper than you suggested.
No, I would say at 50. I thought he was 5,600.
Well, he's right around there. Maybe he is 5,600.
Yeah, but we're good. That's close enough. He's
cheap. Yeah. How about that? He's cheaper than some hitters. We can say that. Hunter Brown's another guy. I think Hunter Brown's interesting for tournaments too. Just kind of like he's legit. And the Braves, well, there's a lot of power in that lineup. They will strike out against some righties. Again, this is like large field stuff. I know the Braves are your team, obviously. But
I like Brown. I think he's got enough strikeout stuff to get it done. Like, look, I love my team. So here's how this game goes. I think this game goes one or two ways, Dean. I think Hunter Brown gets the strikeouts and we don't score enough runs, or he gets the strikeouts but he still gets pounded. To me, those are the two outcomes, right? Like he's going to get strikeouts. So you have to know that going in. he's not going to leave this game with like 2 strikeouts. Well, at least I don't think so. Like, it's possible, but you get what I'm saying, dude? Like, I think he gets at least 5. The question is, does he give up 5 runs with it too against a high-powered offense like the Braves? My reasonable expectation is that he probably gives up 2 to 3 runs and still gets 5 strikeouts. Does he go 6 innings is the question. You get what I'm saying? And does he have a chance to get the win if Elder on the other side has some form of a meltdown? Those are things I just don't know because the game has to play. But if you're asking me, do I like Brown? I like Brown. I think he's going to give up some runs, but the strikeouts will be there. That's my analysis on Brown today.
There's a lot of Ks in this Atlanta lineup, too. If you look at the lineup on Plate IQ, 24.5% collectively as far as striking out versus righties dating back to last season, and just one guy, Ozzie Albies, with a K rate less than 19.2%. Brown dating back to last season, 24%. He's still developing, but he's going to be legit one of these days, but maybe it's today. He's definitely shown some shine. And Antonio's got a good question in chat. Would you rather run Hunter Brown or a Brave stack? Like, if I'm running 15 lineups, I want to have like at least one Brave stack and at least one Hunter Brown. So that's kind of a cop out. But if I can only do one, which is lower owned, I think don't worry about ownership. The Braves are going to be pretty unknown, right? I'm pretty sure. And Brown's going to get less than 5% because people are afraid of Atlanta, rightfully so. I think, you know what? I think I would grab one Brown. If you could only pick one side of that, would you take a share of Brown or a share of the Braves first?
The homer in me says I'll take a share of the Braves first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I am. And Kinko Smack is making a good point. That's not enough if he gives up 3 runs. Kinko Smack, I agree. So, but I was just trying to give my general thoughts about how I felt like his performance would be. So I agree with you. If he gives up 3 runs and just gets 5 strikeouts, like, that's not enough. And so on DK at 9,600, I'm probably not playing him at all, like, to be honest with you. FanDuel is 9,100. But yeah, so I'm with you. Red CYC Sports says, probably not a game to target. I agree. I don't really want to. This game is not really on my radar. But we mentioned Hunter Brown, so I just wanted to give my, honest opinion about how I felt like it would go. If he doesn't give up any runs, he's going to be close to having a good start for sure.
Yeah, but also like Jordan is going to be kind of ignored, and I think Tucker's going to be ignored as well. And I'm not afraid of Bryce Elder. Are you afraid of Bryce Elder? I'm not. I don't know Jordan is either.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games that like the art it is going to be ignored, and maybe it shouldn't. And it's one of the better ballparks today for hitting, I would imagine. Right, just kind of scrolling through. Looks like we're in the high 70s today in Atlanta. Good ballpark to hit the baseballs as is. Obviously, not summertime just yet, where it's like scorching. But when you compare it to other places that I'm looking at, it look, Minnesota, if that game goes, looks pretty horrific as far as hitting. There's some other controlled environments as well with some domes. I'm not sure what's open, what's closed just yet, but Seattle, Arizona, Texas usually closes. I'm not certain. We've gotten a word on that. Milwaukee as well. Not sure if they're going to be open or closed or not. We might see Cleveland just cancel the game entirely. Hey, Baltimore, 80 degrees in Baltimore. Tyler Wells, any pitcher, any person throwing baseballs against Detroit is theoretically in play. How do we feel about Tyler Wells?
I wouldn't play him on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's probably SP2 viable. I don't like Tyler Wells. I don't feel like I have to play Tyler Wells tonight. But I understand, like, if Lucchesi is going to end up, garnering maybe more ownership than you like, then I understand it because it's Detroit. Personally, I don't want to play Wells on a slate this big. Now, there's a 5-game slate, Dean, like we had last night. I feel totally different about it just because, limited options. But on today's slate, I'm out on Wells. I don't really want to play him. I understand it's Detroit. I get it. Like, I'm not oblivious to what's happening here. But I just think we have so many better options that we can invest in than forcing ourselves into Tyler Wells tonight.
Wells versus Lucchesi. Like, Wells is super cheap as well. 17.9% Ks dating back to last season. That's just That's just not going to get the job done. But Detroit, this lineup they're rolling out today, 26.6% strikeouts. The lowest strikeout guy dating back to last season versus righties, 20.7%. The old mouthwash, Jonathan Scope. It's man, it's such a bad lineup. But Wells is not great either. I don't know, man. This one feels like a stay away from me. I'm not stacking Detroit on a 15-gamer, 12-gamer. This ballpark obviously is taking a hit with what they've done the left field out there, just neutralizing home runs, trying to Aaron Judge proof the ballpark, whatever they're doing there in Baltimore, make their pitchers feel a little bit better about themselves. Did you have a thought as far as Wells versus Lucchesi? It sounds like you're more on Lucchesi.
Yeah, it's just a price discount, and I think Lucchesi has more strikeout upside today.
Mr. Richard wants to know, can we can ignore Washington versus Minnesota because of the cold weather, or do we stack Minnesota and pitch Molly? Trevor Williams is bad. He's bad at throwing baseballs when compared to his peers, especially against lefties. Like, this is an incredible Joey Gallo spot, right? Yeah, Kepler leading off as well. I know Buxton's not been spectacular to start the year, and I was looking at Weather Edge, right, Will? And the problem with Weather Edge here is we don't have much of a sample size for baseball games played with this weather, right? It just doesn't happen very often. I think it was a 4-game sample. Yeah, 4-game sample. And what are you going to get from 4 games? It's basically neutral. Runs down 23%. ERA down 28%. Wind is blowing out for what it's worth, but 37 degrees, 27 as far as the dew point. Roth will have a better thought than that, but my thought, it's a 7.5 total. Come on. 4.5 total for Minnesota. I'm probably staying away. Like, maybe Minnesota just gets a bunch of doubles off of Williams, but doesn't feel like a great environment to bang homers. But Joey Gallo, right? He hits him 450 feet no matter what. So what's your thought on this game? I'm hoping it just goes away.
Yeah, I'm my initial thoughts. So let me say this. And now this is personal. Slightly data driven, but also personal. I just stopped playing Tyler Mahle. Okay. I don't like Tyler Mahle.
What do you do to you?
I feel like every time I roster Tyler Mahle, he does nothing. I don't roster him. He finally gets 40 fantasy points. He's another guy that has location issues from time to time. I don't get Tyler Mahle right. So I'm personally fading Tyler Mahle because I don't need Tyler Mahle today. There are other guys that I can play. And then I don't like the weather either. Now, and I think Roth thinks this game is going to play. He thinks they're just going to play cold and snowy. So I'm fully aware of that. But man, this feels like a game where maybe the ump gives them a few more called strikes. Hey, let's get out of here. Strike.
He doesn't want to be out there. Nobody wants to be out there.
So maybe we get some calls on the edge that we don't usually get. Maybe the snow flurries hit him in the pupil a little bit, and he's like, I couldn't tell. Strike. All right, we're out of here. So, and I'm saying that comically, semi-seriously, but yeah, I don't really want any parts of this game.
But again, like 25.3% to K rate, that's really, really solid for Raleigh dating back to last season. And this Washington lineup has no power outside of a small sample for Garrett. And 50 at bats I don't totally buy that. Collectively, their ISO is 129, which is horrendous. And they strike out a fair bit. There's a few contact guys, Ruiz and Abrams, but otherwise, it's just not very appealing. 21.6% for strikeouts. By the way, here's this is a deep brain thought. I was curious. I was like, the pitcher, does he want to be out there throwing baseballs in this cold? Like, where was Tyler Mahle born? California. Not used to this kind of weather, right? Maybe he's adjusted. Right? He lived in Cincinnati for a while, sure, but in the NFL, you have quarterbacks like certain guys just aren't good in cold weather, right? I don't know if that translates to baseballs. Maybe I'm just sort of overthinking it, but he should be fine. Like, if this game goes, this Washington lineup's terrible, and the weather is not amicable for hitting baseballs over the fence, even if Washington had such a capability. According to Chuck in chat, apparently the umpire is a pitcher's umpire. I feel like it wasn't one of the extreme ones, unless I forgot. But, I don't know. Spring training in Florida as well for Tyler Mahle, apparently, according to Luke. Yeah, it was either Florida or Arizona. Either way, you're playing spring training in the heat for sure. Somebody said that Arizona is open today, which they do not like their fans in Arizona. Like, the 88 degrees out in Phoenix. Open it up. Let's bake the fans. Come on. If I'm going out and I'm putting pants on and I'm going out in this heat, you got to give me a little bit of AC. I'm sorry. But that doesn't help Zac Gallen. That doesn't mean I'm not going to play him. But if the roof happens to be open there, and I think somebody said that to Milwaukee, is that America's finest or America's something? It's no longer Miller Park. Milwaukee is closed, according to somebody in chat. We have a smart chat. I assume they're correct. But, yeah. How about stacks or anything else as far as pitchers that we should note? Anybody threw out another pitcher that I missed in chat? If I did, I apologize. But I feel like we basically covered all the pitchers that are going to be grabbing some ownership. Yeah. Anything else that we should say? Or shall we move on and talk about Kikuchi? How about Kikuchi? Any thoughts as far as you said?
Yeah, Kikuchi, he was a guy I did like last night. I do still like him somewhat today. So let me say this about Kikuchi. I think he's much better on DraftKings than Fanduel. On DraftKings, where he's 7,100, and I can pair him with other guys, like that's where I'm mostly interested because there are strikeouts in this lineup. Like for this season, Vogt 41%, Judge 35%, LeMahieu 25%, Peraza 28%, Cabrera 35%, Higashioka 35%. Like there are strikeouts in the lineup this season where, Kikuchi's at 27% and has a 4% walk rate. Like the thing about Kikuchi, he's always a mixed bag. Mm-hmm. I don't know which Kikuchi I'm going to get from game to game. So I know that going in. But at his price at 7,100 on DraftKings specifically, I definitely think you can sprinkle in some Kikuchi in your bill. So like I said, on DraftKings, I'll have a totally different approach, Dean. So I'll have Kikuchi Gray, Kikuchi Ohtani, Kikuchi Gallen Gray, Gallen Ohtani. Like I'll have a totally different approach. Kikuchi Lucchesi. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll have some stuff going on like that. On FanDuel, though, I don't think I'll have Kikuchi today. Could be a mistake, but I prefer to just get John Gray and roll him out.
I know you're big on spring training stuff. I'm not as much as you are. You never really know what pitchers are working on. Sometimes they're just kind of messing around, or they want to get this curveball, and if they get smacked around, so be it. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm big on spring training stuff when I think I see problems, right? So
yeah.
I understand going in so Aaron Nola goes out his first start, gets knocked around, no concern. Comes out his second start, maybe he's not no concern. But when you get to that third start where you should be around 60, 70 pitches and you're still really getting beat up, and then your last start, it's the same thing. And then it's but you're getting hit though. If strikeouts are there and maybe you give up a run or two, okay. But he was giving up serious hits. Same thing with Corbin Burns. His spring training was awful. When it's like that, I have concern and I investigate. But if a pitcher goes, I know they're working on things, but I do try to use that to my advantage. And I know where you're going with this. Kikuchi was stellar in spring training.
Yeah,
just striking out everybody. I get it. And if you look right now, 27% K rate, 4.02 xFIP, 4.8% walk rate. Feels like Kikuchi. Feels like the Seattle version of Kikuchi 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, the other thing is the walk rate significantly down, and he's a guy he'll walk the world when he's not, just correct. He'll lose control from inning to inning sometimes. And
he has not done that this year. Lose control. Anyway, throwing that in.
T-Mobile Park open today, by the way. I believe that's Seattle. Seattle lineup just came out. That's Rodriguez, France, Suarez, Hernandez, Pollock, Kelnick, Murphy, no big dumper, Caballero, and Crawford. Diamondbacks is out as well. Rojas, Marte, Carroll, Walker, Gurriel, Smith, Moreno, Thomas, and Perdomo. And according to Ranger Blake, who's the PR guy on Twitter for the Rangers, they are opening the roof tonight in Texas. There you go. If you care about such things. And I feel like isn't the bat notes these things, right? That's probably the cheat code where I can find all this stuff. I feel like it's in there. All right. I don't want to say it is and it isn't, but I'm pretty certain it is. Give me your favorite stacks tonight. If I go to somebody in chat's asking about Philadelphia, is Philly going to be under-owned? I don't think so. I think Philly's going to be one of the most popular stacks. If you're, I've not looked at the collective ownership just yet, but if you just look at our consensus value rankings, myself, Chris Kirkwood, STL Cards, Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, he'll be on later. All of us are consensus-wise, we all put Philly as our number one stack, which maybe you shouldn't because it's not incredible. I think it's the best. If you got to put a number on it, you got to pick somebody number one. It's Philly. Milwaukee number 2 consensus-wise, a little surprising to me. Baltimore 3, Angels 4. I did not rank them because I don't know how to rank the Angels when they can't play Ohtani. Arizona, Yankees, Texas, even Minnesota got a little bit of love. How do you feel about those rankings? Is that kind of where you're at as well? Is there something you just think you disagree with?
I feel like I don't disagree. I don't feel like I agree with anyone today. Like I don't know what's like. I don't agree with the bad. Seemingly, me and the bad are on opposite side, or some of the main pieces. Let me say that. Like fundamentally, we agree, but just in general, like I think I'm interpreting the data probably differently. And look, I could absolutely be wrong, Dean, but I'm just going to lean on how I've been playing. But so for me, my top stack on the day, no surprise here, Baltimore Orioles. Like Michael Lorenz has been pretty rough. So to come right out of the gate, I think he gets knocked around again. So I like him. I like Texas. That's another stack of mine today that I'm going to be in on. This one probably a little bit more off the board than anyone else. But I do like the Mets today. Like, we're not projecting them to score a lot of runs. Anthony DeSclafani's been great, but he's faced like really bad teams. And listen, folks, just the Mets aren't striking out to right-handed pitching this year. Okay, let me rephrase that. They're striking out very little to right-handed pitching this year. And there's a lot of guys in this lineup that what I like to call professional hitters: Nemo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso McNeil. This is a good lineup. I like the Mets today as I guess a secondary stack, if you will. They're on my list for sure. I don't have to convince you into Seattle. I think they can get to Mets today as well. But I did want to mention the Mets because I don't think they're going to be nearly as popular as any of the other teams.
Lots of righty power on that Seattle side. Looks like they're starting 7 righties, Kelnick and Crawford, the 2 lefties. Mets, you're going to get to them with righty power. You get the Disco with lefty power. I think Brett Beatty is a really interesting punt at third base. It looks like he's projected to bat 8th tonight. Big prospect there for the Mets. Hitting from the left side. Again, the ballpark stinks, but, if you need a flat-out cheapie to make stuff work, I do not mind him if you're not, fully stacking. Let's see. Who else? It's TJ and Chapo. He's got Texas, Seattle, Milwaukee. What am I missing on Milwaukee? I don't think Milwaukee's bad. But it's just we're picking on Pavetta, and that's that, right? And the roof is closed. Yes? I think it's closed. Yelich, Winker, Adames, Rowdy, Contreras, Anderson, Terang, Miller, and Weimer. That is your starting lineup for Milwaukee. By the way, Mitchell going to have surgery, or I just saw he might miss the entire season for Milwaukee. So that's kind of a bummer for them. You had a thought. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so if you're like me and maybe you don't believe in some of these performances, if you don't trust Bryce Elder, he's pitched okay. But if you don't trust Bryce Elder, then you probably need to get some Houston exposure. I think that's a good attackable spot. Once again, I'm not really taking that approach today. But listen, Alvarez, Tucker. I talked about Abreu last night on the pod, and Steve was like, Abreu was just up there hacking away. He is. But he hasn't been a 30% K guy in a long time. And so I think he'll turn it around at some point. But I'm just saying that because I do think Houston, even though they don't have Brantley, they don't have Altuve, Elder could still have a tough time today. So I just want to mention the Houston bats. They're not going to be popular, but I do think they could be in consideration.
Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for Brantley to come back finally for Houston? I know he's your guy.
Listen, Michael Brantley is my favorite baseball player, man. I can't wait for Michael Brantley to get back in this lineup.
He's like a worse – I don't know. So I was going to say Stephen Kwan without the speed. I like guys that can hit the ball over the fence. Maybe I'm silly.
He can hit some, but listen, I like his all-around game, man. I like Michael Brantley. Well, the other reason I like Michael Brantley too, Dean, is typically he's under 4K on DK. So I can just plug him in every day and let him get 2 hits and bring some guys home and, score a couple runs and I'm good. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, Polanco back from Minnesota. So you're talking about that. And I think Minnesota is interesting if the weather just – I want to hear what Roth has to say about this. And again, we're not getting much of a sample size from Weather Edge because it's so rare that they play a game in such an environment. But even Vegas is dropping a 7.5 on this total. Now, obviously, we're 235 favorite Minnesota, and their team total is a 4.5, and Washington's got a team total under 3. rightfully so, because again, that team is completely dreadful. But I'm curious what Roth has to say. Like, is it really that miserable to hit baseballs in the current weather in Minnesota, assuming that game goes? And maybe that'll put me on to more Molly. And I want to see if I can play some Twins, because I like them in theory, in a vacuum, but I don't know if I like this ballpark. Steven's asking about the Yankees. We haven't talked about the Yankees at all the entire show. Yankees today, Volpe leading off, Judge, Rizzo, Torres, LeMahieu, Peraza, Cabrera, Higashioka, and IKF against Kikuchi. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Be like, you're supposed to make a Yankee stack or two, right? Like, I don't know how many lineups you have to get to before you say, let's stack the Yankees. But I think you're supposed to do it at some point. But what's your stance as far as the Yankees?
They're just okay. I mean, I'm not really thrilled about the Yankees today, for what it's worth.
I think they're fine. Obviously, no Stanton, no Donaldson, whatever's left of Donaldson's bat.
Like Baltimore to me is the stack, which why I know I called them out first. Like, listen, man, it's 82 degrees there. Like, that to me, this is the spot to get a good team, or a good an up and coming young team against a pitcher that's kind of just coming back. Like, to me, this is Baltimore, my top stack of the day.
Dating back to last season, Lorenzen, 21% Ks, not spectacular. Walks way too many guys, 10.6%. A lot of ground balls. I'll give him that. He's got a skill, 49.8%. So keeping the ball on the ground. Fly ball is subdued at 31%. But righty power, he's given up a fair bit of righty power if you're looking at the plate IQ, 234 at bats, a WOBA of 289. I'm sorry, no. He's giving up lefty power. My bad. I misread that. 183, the ISO to lefties. And I prefer lefties in this ballpark as opposed to righties. I like Mullins a good bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to fully stack, but Mullins and Rushman look spectacular to me. Maybe as a little mini stack, if nothing else. Somebody's asking which lefties, which players in the Yankees hit lefties hard. And again, you pull up the plate IQ, and not surprisingly, it's going to be Judge. Judge, he doesn't discriminate. It's everybody hard for sure. His ISO dating back to last season, 331, massive number. Rizzo, you could play Rizzo left on left. I know people don't like it, but he's perfectly fine. Actually, really good. 285 ISO. And Torres at a 252 ISO. Those are the three in the green. That's basically it. The LeMahieu, the power has kind of gone away. Small sample on Peraza, prospect there for him. And Volpe, small sample as well, just 17 at bats. But I don't think he's like an extreme power hitter. More of a speed guy. IKF, not so much. What else is going on here in the chat? You guys got crunch time in about 15 minutes. We got Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth. Roth will give you an update as far as what's going on in Minnesota, in Cleveland, everywhere else. If something happens to pop up, and you have two-time millionaire winner Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, as well as Derek Carty, CEO of the Bat. Should be a fun conversation. They're going to take you guys home. We're happy to answer whatever questions y'all have in chat before we yield to crunch time. While you're just hanging out, please kindly hit that like button, do subscribe, turn on those notifications. That all helps us out with the algorithm. Rowdy Tellez or Rizzo? I'm not sure if that's like a one-off question, but Rowdy or Rizzo as a one-off? Who do you prefer? I think Rowdy's going to be more popular when you consider salary. I've not pulled it up, but I'm pretty sure he's one of our more popular kind of mid-tier options. You have a preference amongst those two?
Are they talking DraftKings or just in general?
That's all I got. That's all the information I have for you.
I'm assuming they're talking at first. I'd probably take Rowdy straight up.
Antonio wants to know, if you're playing the Mets, do you prefer a 5-man stack or a 3-man stack?
4-man stack. I know that didn't answer your question, but God, and I didn't mean to go in the middle. I think if I'm going to stack against DeSclafani, like, I want enough. So I don't think I'd go 5. So let's just say 3.
What is Rowdy Tellez' real first name?
I'm not sure. Is it Rowdy?
No. Somebody said it was Rowdrick, and I'm like, it's not Rowdrick. I don't know if it's not Rowdrick. And according to Wikipedia, which is never wrong, it's Ryan John Rowdy in air quotes Tellez. So it's Ryan John Rowdy Tellez. There you go. We have a Spidey Bomb in chats. Looks like Oh, come on. Is Spider-Man he's like he knocked it out yesterday. Now he's not even like I like when Spidey gets ambitious, goes off the board a little bit. J-Rod. He's got J-Rod going yard, but sure, yeah, he's a good play.
But I think in baseball, nobody's guaranteed. You look at the data, you hand it out. So if it hits, you're still getting it plus money, and it's good for your lineups.
I think the rules of Spidey is like the more Spidey bombs that are unleashed, the more ambitious he gets. I think that's what TJ's saying in chat as well. So the second one, assuming there's a second one incoming, a little bit more off the board. You want to play the stack game? If I throw a stack your way, tell me if you love it. If you love it, you give it a 5. If you hate it, you give me a 1. If you're kind of indifferent, kind of wishy-washy, you see it both ways, you give it a 3. How do you feel about Philadelphia? Philadelphia, by the way, on FanDuel, Schwarber, I want to say, is 3-1 over there, which is egregious. If you're playing cash games on FanDuel, of course, you're playing Schwarber. He's going to be heavily owned in tournaments, considering it's 12 games can only be so owned. But yeah, this isn't like a 2K, Tatis deal last night on DK, but still, he's going to be heavily owned for sure. But the Phillies, how do you feel about the Phillies? 1 through 5, all things considered.
They're just okay.
But do you want to put a number on that?
Yeah, give me a 3.
Is this because of ownership, or you're just not excited about the Phillies and that's that?
I'm actually not excited about the Phillies. I don't feel like the Phillies are about to run up the score tonight, for what it's worth.
Okay. St. Louis is playing baseball tonight, by the way. Their lineup is out. They're not going to get played, and they're facing a pitcher that throws strikes in George Kirby. I like George Kirby, good prospect. We much prefer. I much prefer. I don't want to speak for you, but I love the Cardinals against lefties. This is against a really solid righty, but it is a strike thrower. I don't love the ballpark in Seattle, but it's kind of neutral, I guess, as we talked about yesterday. Donovan, Burleson, Goldie, Arenado, Contreras, Gorman, the Bar of Newt, Jordan Walker, and Tommy Edman. Edman typically leads off versus lefties. I guess they bury him versus righties. Do we acknowledge the existence of the Cardinals on this slate? Is it big enough? I'm not making enough lineups to get there, but I wouldn't besmirch.
I don't know if the Cardinals are going to be like a tournament team where they just kind of tee off, but I don't think Kirby's going to have some spectacular night either.
All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and continue with the stack game. If you want to hear us put a number on a team, feel free to throw a stack out there. We still have 10 minutes or so before we step aside and make way for crunch time. I'm pulling up our consensus rankings. Milwaukee. Sell me on Milwaukee. It sounds like you like Milwaukee, and a lot of people like Milwaukee today.
I'm not like super on the Milwaukee train, for what it's worth. I like Milwaukee. I don't love Milwaukee. Like, I love Baltimore. Like, that's my stack of the day. I really like Baltimore. I really like Texas. I like the Mets. I'm okay with the Angels. I really like the Mariners, but so like Milwaukee's a lot further down my list than those teams I've named. And it's not that I don't think they could have a nice night, but I'm not going to put any trust in the Milwaukee Brewers as a top stack of mine on any slate until they can all figure out how to hit baseballs.
You're making a Baltimore 4-man stack. Is it just as simple as 1 through 4? Mullins, Rushman, Mountcastle, Santander?
No. So typically, I'm not going to do any type of 1 through 4. Like, that's just not my style.
Okay.
I'll do something like this. Okay. So if I like Mullins and Rushman, which are probably at the end of the day, those would be the most popular, then I'd probably go Mullins, Rushman, Santander, Frazier, right? Just by leaving out Ryan Mountcastle, you can get something done. And then after that, I'd probably do something like Mullins, Mountcastle, Santander, Gunnar Henderson, right? And then after that, I'd probably go like Rutschman, Santander. Like, you get what I'm saying? I'd load up on a guy like Santander and then kind of flip-flop between Mullins and Rutschman. That's for the hand bill, though, Dean. So in lineup HQ, I'd set a rule and just say, hey, I want 20% Baltimore stacks. I only want this guy in the stacks, like Terran Vara. He'd only go in the stack. Like, I'm not playing him as a one-off.
Yeah.
Whereas Mullins, Rutschman, Santander, Gunnar Henderson, those are guys I wouldn't mind as a one-off and some other things.
Yeah, Henderson's been kind of disappointing so far this season, but he's hitting the ball hard. We'll give him that. 39% hard hit rate versus righties this season. And I believe he's sitting in the air too, right? Yeah, 43% fly balls. The ISO not spectacular. Just maybe it's a small sample stuff. They're kind of bearing him a little bit. like theoretically, he's supposed to be a better hitter than Hayes or Frazier, right?
Yeah.
You know, obviously a bit of a prospect, maybe, you know, still developing, but I don't mind
here's the other thing too, Dean. If they're facing a bad pitcher, you know, they may end up with some better quality hits. So while he might not hit a home run, he might get a really good single that drives two guys home if they're on base. You get what I'm saying? Like a single down the line or something like that, where he can't necessarily get the second, but the guy on third and the guy at second already had a good lead. It's trailing down, you know, the right line, and so they're not going to get it in time for runs to come home. Then he steals a base. Like those are the types of things I like to look at when I feel like they're facing a pitcher that, you know, while they may not hit the home run ball, can they turn the lineup over? Because that's really what you want, right, D? Like I do want the home run, but I want the lineup to turn over enough for me to get opportunities. And if the lineup turns, then the points are going to come. And that's the approach I'm thinking about with Baltimore.
Luke wants to know how you feel about it was Brian wants to know how you feel about Boston. We haven't really talked about the Boston stack so much. Verdugo, Devers, Turner, Yoshida, Kike, Enrique Hernandez, Casas, McGuire, Duran, and Chang. What's your stance as far as Boston versus Peralta?
Yeah, I don't want to play Boston, and I don't want to play Freddie for what it's worth. So I feel like it's just kind of this they're canceling each other out type deal. And I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm not really playing much Freddie. Not playing any Freddie, not playing any Boston.
Let's see. Seattle. Did we talk about the Seattle stack?
Yeah,
as far as a number, like where would you put the number? 1 through 5?
Yeah, they'd be 4 for sure. Definitely a 4 for me.
We're looking for a last piece on FanDuel. We major Kerry Carpenter versus Wells.
I don't hate it. Kerry Carpenter's been cheap. I think he's $3K on DK, cheap on FanDuel. Like
Power.
I don't hate that. Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
He's one of Detroit's prospects. Like none of them have panned out. I don't know when was the last time Detroit's had a prospect pan out, but maybe I'm missing somebody. Well, I mean that's sure. that was a Marlins prospect, but yes.
No, I know. I'm aware of this, Dean. I'm aware of this. They had Castellanos and they had JD, but I can't remember where they came from. But they're gone. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, those guys are long gone.
JD Martinez was a DFA by the Astros. The Astros threw him away like 8 years ago or something like that. And then he was a late bloomer. It took him a while to get there. He was kind of like a Jose Bautista type where he was struggling.
Jose Bautista, man. We're going not too far back, but yeah, that's top in the old time capsule.
Joseph Batts. Al Kaline, according to John in the chat, the Detroit pitcher from like the 50s or something. There you go. He was. You got lock button for Kaline whenever he took the mound. Verlander. There you go. That's a legit answer, right? I think Verlander was a legit.
Absolutely,
Detroit.
Yeah.
Sure. How about Scherzer? There you go. Not for Detroit. They moved him away pretty quickly. Did they trade him or he just kind of go elsewhere? I don't remember how he left Detroit, but I think he was bad in Detroit for a couple of years before he figured it out. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Kaline was an outfielder? Yeah, my bad. He didn't also throw baseballs? Yeah, I guess not. Yeah. Oh boy, I've been exposed. What a fraud I am for not knowing. I should have known that, to be clear, and not that it's relevant to today. We care about today and today only. Al Kaline probably is no longer with us. All right, seamless segue. Homers. Who's going to bang one out? Well, I know Spidey. He needs a certain number of likes and things of that sort to pop his head up, but are you bold enough to give the people some potential Homer people?
Always, man. Like, listen. This is what we do, And look, Spidey's been running hot, man. Spidey's been having a great time. I feel like I'm going to be pretty chalky today on the Spidey bomb, but I still think it's the right call. It's Adley Rutschman. 95% contact rate on the fastball, 409 ISO, 92 mile per hour exit velocity, whiff rate of 4.5%. Like he should be able to put good contact on the bat tonight. I like Adley Rutschman to get a home run. And if you're on the sports books, I'm not sure where he's at. Maybe it's plus, 400 or something like that. Haven't looked. I could absolutely look it up. If you guys get over to Scores and Odds at scoresandodds.com, you could absolutely be in the know of what the home run calls are. Spidey bombs are being put up over there. My good friend Justin Carlucci is posting. My good friend Dean Shavelson is posting. I'm kidding. Dean doesn't post anything.
No, that's not true. I do. I thought you were saying you're kidding. We're not friends.
No. I'm kidding.
Oh, man.
Dean is posting. Britt's posting. Grant's posting.
Not today.
No, but I'm just saying, generally speaking.
Yeah.
It's a real good time. And so if I can find something on Rutschman, I will absolutely. Let me see if we can get some odds. But Dean, do you have a home run call tonight?
It's funny. I'm never prepared for like somebody throwing it back my way. But let's see. I will make sure to get one out before we go off air. But let me figure it out.
Adley Rutschman plus 680.
That's really good. That's a good number. I like that.
On FanDuel plus 550 on Sugar plus 680. That, oh my goodness.
That seems pretty solid.
Folks, I would listen. Plus 680 on Adley Rutschman. I like that.
I think one of these Yankees take Kikuchi out, but they're probably the numbers probably aren't spectacular. Let's see who. I want to pick Minnesota guys, but I don't know if that game's going to play, and I don't know if that weather is suitable to hit homers. But I really want to pick on Trevor Williams. Unfortunately, that doesn't appear to be. Let's see. I'll get back to you with somebody that's going to hit a homer. Do you have a favorite value play? Like a favorite value play that's going to make stuff work for you?
So if you're on FanDuel, look, you're going to hear me talk about the guys that I like. If you're on FanDuel, I like Santander at 2,700. I feel like he makes things work. If you're on DraftKings, it's still going to be somebody from Baltimore, just so you know, and it's probably going to be Santander as well. He's 3,900 on DK. I like Santander a ton.
Yeah,
and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt that Cheeseisgood has the blue dot on Anthony Santander. That's getting me real excited, man.
Yeah, so if you go to Lineup HQ, if you have that Lineup HQ access, and I know producer Steve likes to show it off for the people, we have the notations, right? And we have expert plays amongst several people, and also the salary savers, STL cards, salary savers on FanDuel. He's got Mr. Steal Your Girl, the Winker, Jesse Winker. Buxton is down to 2.8 on FanDuel, which seems pretty egregious. Christian Walker's 2.7. I'll throw Schwarber in the conversation. I think 3K is like the cutoff, so he's technically not a salary saver, but he is because 3.1 on FanDuel is just goofy for Schwarber. And as far as DK specific, the salary savers are Gurriel at 3.7, Walker at 3.3, Winker again at 3.1, and Duran at 2.1 as part of that Texas stack. Let's see. I still haven't given up a homework to the people. We should have Dave Potts coming in shortly, as well as Derek Carty, as well as Kevin Roth. Roth will let us know what's going on weather-wise. He nailed it yesterday, so shout out to Roth for nailing the weather yesterday in Chicago. And yes, I've been exposed. Mitch is calling me out in chat for not knowing that Al Kaline was an outfielder. I feel like I knew that, but I just missed on the fly. But I'll take the L. I'll take the L on that. Yeah, my bad. Alex in chat's talking about the Yankees as a secondary stack. I don't hate that at all. Rizzo left on left, absolutely, especially Hambuilders is not going to play that. I like Beatty as well for the Mets. I assume he's going to crack that 8 spot facing Disco Stu in San Francisco. Terrible ballpark, but he's super cheap and there's a lot of pedigree. And don't mind to get to Beatty at third base. It's kind of a loaded position, so there's an opportunity cost, I suppose. But we leave no with a salary cap. You've heard this before, right, Chief? I'm sure you're aware of such things. If you need to save some salary, how about there you go? We'll pick Beatty as our homer today off of Disco. That's being ambitious right out the gate. First one. I don't need 9, and then all of a sudden I get ambitious. So, it's going to be Aaron Judge and J-Rod and Schwarber. And now I'm going to give you the goofy ones. We're going to start with the goofy ones right out the gate. It's Beatty.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else lurking here in chat before we move on? There's no knock to hand builders. I'm kind of a hand builder. Apparently there's some BBP for Lindor. I was not aware of this. Gallo for a homer. I love Gallo for a homer if the weather cooperates. But, again, maybe he just hits it like in the 4th row instead of the 20th row. But I really don't like what the weather's saying right now in Minnesota. What's the team like you're most afraid of not having enough of? You're afraid of like fading. Who's that team or pitcher?
Look, man, it's Baltimore for me, man. That's my team of the day. Look, if they don't come through, it's fine. Guess what'll happen, Dean? We'll wake up in the morning, another slate will be presented to us. We'll do some analysis on that one and see if we can take that one down. But I do really like the Baltimore Orioles today. I like the ballpark. I like the weather there. I really like Texas against JP Sears. I like those two teams.
No, who's the one you're not playing though? Like you're just not making enough lineups. You can't get to for whatever reason. That's the one that's most bullish.
It's probably the Braves, and I like Hunter Brown. I really do. But once again, the Braves can strike out 8 times and score 8 runs. Like that's who they are. This is well within the range of outcomes. So, and then Dean, the other thing too, sometimes maybe that we don't think about, Hunter Brown could have a masterful performance, and then the Braves could just run it up on the bullpen. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm saying it's possible, right? Like both can be true, but I am afraid of not having the Braves. I'm taking a massive probably fade on them today. But listen, they go out and score 8 runs. Like I'm not going to be surprised at all. Very potent offense for sure.
Mr. Grapefruit in chat wants to know, am I safe going with Herman and Elder in the pitching group? And I say no, those are not safe pitchers.
I'm not playing them today. I just think, for Herman, the Blue Jays, to me, for my liking, they just don't strike out enough against right-handed pitching. Now, I know Herman's had a great outing here recently, but all in all, the Blue Jays just don't strike out enough for me overall as a team. He's another guy that he could get blown up today. I don't think he's getting blown up, but I also don't think he's getting 11 strikeouts and 70 pitches.
I mean, Carty's going to come on and he's going to tell you that there's no such thing as safety when it comes to pitchers and like whatever. And I understand what the question is. I think there are some, and I understand what Carty says too, but like there are pitchers that are more safe than others, right? Carty, come on. You're telling me Ohtani is not more safe than Domingo Germán? Get out of town. Come on. Welcome to the show.
Ohtani is better than Domingo Germán, but once you account for the quality of it, I don't know if anyone is really a lot safer. I guess profile-wise, the high home run guys are going to have wider variance. So, like, the low home run guys like Marcus Stroman or whoever are going to be, like, safer. But I feel like people use safety a lot of times to mean just better.
It's a relative term. Hold on. Can I ask the question to Dave? Dave, welcome to the show. Domingo Germán or Shohei Ohtani, who would you feel is a safer player to roster? Is there an answer to that?
Yeah. Shohei Ohtani.
It's weird because
with the acknowledgement that
went only 3 innings and everyone freaked out. I don't know what
it was a rain. It was a rain. It was a rain.
Well, I'm saying he wasn't safe that day, was he?
Well, it's a good thing we have somebody here that can tell us if it's going to rain or not today, and that thus would ensure the safety of Ohtani. It's cheap and irrelevant. Kevin Roth. Shout out to yesterday. You nailed the Cubby game. You called it was going to be a delay, and then there were some homers. All right, so Roth, you got a call today. We'll see. We might actually get a delay. You did upgrade, or I guess downgrade is the way to look at it, right? As far as what's going on in Cleveland. Oh, it changed again. Is it now officially orange?
Yeah, I don't know. It's constantly changing. I work all day. I just look at weather and put in the latest. That's just all I do. It's the ever evolving process, Dean.
It's fluid.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fluid. But I don't think it's changed much. Honestly, I feel like all day it's been like, that's the ugly spot. And still right now, that's the ugly spot.
I thought it was red-orange like a half hour ago. That's why I said it's changed.
I did briefly put it at red, and then I was like, everyone's going to freak out and just think it's
once you see that red, the world loses its mind.
Yeah. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going back to a strongly worded orange. So that's
you had enough DMs and enough tweets. There you said, screw it, I'm moving off red. Is that what happened? Like,
yeah, it was at red. Yeah, it was at red for a solid 5 minutes, and I was like, this is a bad idea. It's a strongly worded, I don't trust it orange. TJ asks, is snow precipitation? What the hell kind of question?
What a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
Of course it's precipitation.
Dean questioned earlier if snow was precipitation.
No,
damn it, Dean.
Steve, I thought we were a good turn. Why do you got to throw me under the bus like instantly? Let me have a little bit of fun at first, and then.
Is it really being thrown under the bus if everybody knew that you asked this question?
I was asking it like thinking out loud for the record. I wasn't like, I was just trying to figure out the question. It's like, what's 3 plus 3? I know it's 6, but it takes me a while to get there. That's all.
Gotta talk it out. It's fine.
We love you, Dean. We love you.
Roth, also Minnesota, I guess they're going to play. It looks like they're going to play the longer they don't delay it.
Again, kind of my morning thoughts were, if they're going to postpone this, they'll tell us well ahead of time, because I know it's going to be snow showers and it's going to be in the 30s. Like, everybody knows that. So there's no reason to get up to this point and then postpone it. They're acting like they're going to play. I think they're going to play. Is that a crazy thought?
Listen, here's what I want to see. I want to see a pop-up in the midfield, center field, with it like pouring snow and guys losing the ball. If we're gonna have a snow game, let's have it. Like, let's just have it, right?
Just a bunch of white circles falling towards you.
Yeah.
Which one do you get?
Which way?
Some precipitation in the eye.
So I can't say I feel like 1,000% it's going to happen. I guess 100% is all I'd have to feel, but I just think they would have postponed it already. So I think they're going to play. And in Cleveland, I think it's risky as hell, and I do not officially recommend it. Certainly not in cash games.
They have played so few games in Minnesota that Weather Edge is not really helping us out. Only a 4-game sample, unfortunately. But
I mean, the issue is how many baseball games get played in the 30s, right? So when you're trying to take a similar sample size of games in the 30s, there's not a whole lot to go with there.
But your thought would be it's going to be harder to hit baseballs here in the precipitation, in the cold?
Well, yeah. Look, temperatures are in the 30s. That's obviously very bad for hitting. Winds are blowing out to center at 10 to 15, which kind of saves it. But I'll take the cold winning over in that battle of light wind. Unless
this is very much a spot for pitching.
Yeah, it's pitching weather.
Yeah, I really liked Minnesota versus Trevor Williams, but I guess we can't. Carty, it's too bad. Is that the problem here? Because Trevor Williams, is he bad enough that it outweighs, or it just makes it even, or I guess not so much? Is that because? Yeah.
I mean, he's not good, but I don't think I'd be on Minnesota here. I actually took Williams and Molly prop overs today because this is a real good pitching spot.
All right, Will, I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Was it Williams over 2 outs?
2.5 strikeouts.
It was 4.5 strikeouts plus 140, which is a very good number here.
It sounds horrible, but I hope you win.
Will, you got anything else with the boys, or shall we step aside and get out of here?
Nah, man. It's date night. I'm out.
There you go. That was Will. We appreciate you watching. We're going to yield to crunch time. It's Kevin Roth. It's Derek Carty. It's Dave Potts. Enjoy your Friday. Vamos gatos. I was Dean. We're out of here. Well, I'm yielding to Roth. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. As always, Dino and crew. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. It is crunch time. It is sponsored by Fanduel. It's a free show. Sponsored by Fanduel. It's as good as it gets. Joined by 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz and a baby. We got one, Mr. Dave Potts. What up, Cheese? How are you?
I am great. I like a 12-game slate with a pretty good amount of everything. It's good to have.
Very good. Cheese, that's not your baby.
I hope not.
No. That's well answered. Carty, my baby just retorted to your baby. I heard screaming upstairs. How are you, man? How is things?
Things are good. I mean, this slate is like, this is a fun slate. I feel like there's so much to talk about, so much to like. I'm really hoping we get some disagreement between me and Cheese. So I don't know. Let's see.
I think we already have. I feel like
he already said the word over and Trevor Williams in the same sentence. So there's some disagreement. But I don't think he's going to tell you to play him for DFS. So I think we're okay.
Yeah, I feel like something's brewing here tonight. I kind of went over the weather already, which is, as I mentioned, in Minnesota, nothing would surprise me at this point. But they're tweeting like, here's the lineup. It's Julio Day or whoever the hell's pitching. I don't know. Is it Julio? Did I make that up?
I believe his name is like Tyler.
Close. I was close. Tyler.
Yeah,
Julio. Almost. Nailed it. Anyways, the point is they're acting like they're going to play. I think they're going to play. I feel like they would have postponed it literally at 7 a.m. when everybody knew the forecast if that was their plan. So I expect they're going to play it. In Cleveland, I just posted a little radar tweet. The rain's coming, and we're going to get a message officially soon about either a late start or a postponement. If it's a late start, that doesn't mean they're not going to postpone it. It just means they haven't figured that out yet.
Can we just let me just say, like, there is no reason to play any player in that game anyway. I mean, you could, if you really wanted to play Jose Ramirez, if it was normal, it's fine. But like, just X that game out. Like, don't even think about it for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Then let's just do that. I love that. That makes
it's
me feel
so
good.
It's so easy to do anyway.
Like, literally, you saying that just took, like, I felt my shoulders just like relax and.
Yeah, there's like 9 games with stuff to love on both sides, and this is not one of them.
Are you kidding? This is like the best game on the slate.
Don't do that.
Come on, Cheese.
Don't be an ass. No. Look, if you want to take a stab on it in tournaments, then maybe fine. But really,
no, it's completely unnecessary. I just wanted to bust Kevin's balls.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So that's essentially it as far as the weather goes. Carty mentioned it's better for pitching than hitting in Minnesota by quite a bit. And that's it. That's all I've got to do. So now I'm going to step back and yield the mic here. Cheese, you want to kind of give us a general overview on the slate?
Yeah, there's not a like a one spot anywhere. It's not like one of those days where, this Coors Field or this one ace. Like, it's all pretty spread out on both sides.
Okay.
So I think we'll just jump into the pitchers.
Okay, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to let Carty go first. So that I can get your reaction, because I feel there may be some retorts going on. We got a notification here. What is it? Notification. Guardians game postponed due to inclement weather. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, sorry. Was I just flexing unnecessarily? I want that counted as an official win, by the way, even though it happened before lock. I want that
done
in my record book as a win.
Done.
Okay, I'm going to tweet that. Carty, walk me through what we're doing for pitchers.
So there's actually a lot to like with pitchers today. There's kind of like a top tier of like, I consider it 4 guys. I'm going to guess Cheese considers it 2 guys and then another tier below them. But I'm curious.
Actually, no, it's the same 4.
Oh, all right, cool then. I guess we're not going to argue.
Yeah, I wish we could, but we can't.
Well, we have Aaron Nola, we have Shohei Ohtani, we have Tyler Mahle, we have John Gray. They're clearly the top 4 guys according to the bat. They all project, I don't want to say like identically, but like pretty close. They're within like 5 FanDuel points of each other, within like 3 DraftKings points of each other. Nola's the guy that the bat likes the most, and he's the one that I think from a price standpoint makes the most sense on both sites. So he's kind of the one that I think you play in cash games. You wouldn't be wrong to play any of these other guys, I don't think, except for maybe Ohtani, just because he's so much more expensive than them. And I just think you're throwing salary away to do that. Like, he's great, but he's not worth that much extra, especially when he projects straight up worse than Nola by like half a point. But still, you don't need to waste the salary. Then we have Mahle, who is in this Minnesota game with the weather. It's cold. You may have heard, I don't know if anyone's talked about it yet, but it's cold there, and cold is good for pitching, especially when the average temperature in every other game today is like 70 degrees. I think it was like 68.5 when I looked earlier today. So being 30 degrees colder than everywhere else is really a good thing. The only concern really is that when temperature has a very linear relationship with hitting, the hotter it is, the better hitting is, the colder it is, the better pitching is. We deal with small samples, as Kevin kind of said. As you start getting into the 30s, you do kind of lose that linear effect. Some of it's going to be sample size, but some of it could just be like, it's harder to feel the ball and get the right grip for pitchers. And that kind of thing.
At some point, you wonder when it goes from like, all right, the ball isn't flying as far in this cold air to, okay, now it's so cold that the pitcher is literally struggling to stand out there all day.
But I think effectively, even if we were to say like, okay, it's not really that linear effect. It's not that 35 degrees or whatever. It's more like 50 degrees when you account for that. It's still a lot cooler than everywhere else. And the bat does try to account for that effect a little bit. So, So yeah, it's just a good spot. He's facing Washington, who's just booty awful. And yeah, so he's good. And then John Gray.
They're a garbage fire.
It's booty awful garbage fire.
No, they're booty awful. John Gray is facing Oakland, who is a garbage fire. They are by far the worst offense on this slate, and they are bad. And John Gray, there's some concern because he left his last game. He got drilled with a liner, I think, only threw like 30 or 40 pitches, and it's been It's been like a week. But I would think he should be like basically full go. I don't think there's going to be like a hard limit on him. It's possible, I guess. But I think he should be fine, and the matchup's fantastic. So those are kind of your cash options. In DraftKings, I think I'd probably go Nola Malley or Nola Gray. On FanDuel, I'd go Nola. And then after that, you kind of have a tier of a whole bunch of guys that project pretty similarly. A bunch of them are really cheap, and there's probably like 8 guys that I think you can consider working into your mix in GPPs. You have like Steven Matz and Tyler Wells and George Kirby and Domingo Herman and Trevor Williams and Joey Lucchesi, and like they're all, I think, especially if you want to do like some of the better stacks today are a bit on the expensive side. Like if you want to do like a Philly stack or like an Angel stack, and you want to play like one of these cheaper guys with it, I think that's fine.
Okay, very good. I feel like that was a good analysis, but I don't think I'm going to get many fireworks here out of Cheese. You get the same 4 guys up top at least.
Yeah, so what I can say on this is
it's booty awful.
No, those are great words. The one guy that I'm going to, really 2, that I think you should play some in large field tournaments that I don't at all disagree with them projecting poorly and almost certainly are bad points per dollar plays, but Freddie Peralta and Zac Gallen, if someone's going to just come out of nowhere and win the slate, it's one of those 2 guys. They're clearly not good plays or likely plays to be good points per dollar plays. But with when you're doing 150 lineups, that's the kind of guys you play at, a fifth of the ownership of Ohtani. I do in general, I love Zac Gallen, but I certainly don't love him facing this Padres team. So
in
I don't
80-degree weather.
So really, I don't expect Peralta or Gallen to be a top 4 or 5 pitcher raw points. But other than Ohtani, they do have that potential. Just if everything goes right, play a little bit. The guy that Carty did mention that I'm playing way more than I would like to is Joey Lucchesi, just on DK only, just because of the price. We don't know. It's been a long time. He was really good, 3-4 years ago. And he's 5,400 against a Giants team that you prefer against lefties. So anyway, I'm playing him a fair amount. I just think the discussion with those 4 guys up top is about the ownership. And my hunch is Ohtani doesn't really come in that high just because of the salary. It is hard to get him in once you start building. Mm-hmm. So I think we see, something like 40 to 50% Nola and 30-ish% on Molly and Gray and more like 25 on Ohtani. But really, that's all still whichever guys score the most, that's who you need. I don't think you need to too heavily play the ownership game.
Right. I mean, who's got the ceiling out of those 4? Ohtani's the dude who can pay
really
15,
they all
right?
They really all do is the
okay.
thing. Any of them, Nola could throw a complete game.
Gotcha.
Molly or Gray could strike out 10 guys, and Ohtani's Ohtani. So I don't even see a huge difference in ceiling. So I'm really mixing and matching those guys, and then where I need salary, I'm playing Wells or I'm playing Lucchesi, and then to get just weird here and there, I have a little Gallen and Peralta.
Okay, well, I'm glad you mentioned Wells and a little Lucchesi because I've got a question from K-Town's Finest. In a DK GPP, can you give a little Lucchesi and Wells and then release the Hounds?
The Hounds do come out on that one. I have a couple of those lineups.
Yeah.
And now for that to work, you need all 4 of those top guys plus Peralta and Gallen to have just kind of okay. If they all just hit their projection, you can win with that. But if 1 or 2 of them have a ceiling game, you're done.
And 1 of 2 probably will, all right?
Probably. But yes, there are a lot of really good high-end bats. So I have a couple of those lineups, so I hope they're not terrible.
Okay, very good. That's fair. Excellent stuff, guys. Let's kick it over to the bats, and we like to start talking about the stacks. And Cheese, you get to go first.
So this is where it really gets super spread out. I think the Phillies are the chalk. And I would call them kind of my favorite in a vacuum. My actual favorites, as far as what I'm playing the most based on how the salary works, are the Rangers and the Brewers, with the Yankees coming in next. But there's 10 teams that I love. and they're all pretty close. And what we end up with after that group that I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of really great offenses against pretty good pitchers that are going to go crazy underowned for who they are. I'm talking about Toronto, Houston, Atlanta, St. Louis specifically. You could put San Diego in there. Like these teams that are just great, that are facing pretty good pitchers, nobody's going to play. And they're kind of expensive on top of that. So I went out of my way to make sure I have a couple of each of those teams. But if I were doing 3 to 5 lineups, I would just be on Phillies, Yankees, Rangers, Brewers.
Okay, good stuff. Carty, you're nodding in agreement here. You like the same stacks?
Yeah, not as high on the Yankees, but the other stuff for sure. Like I feel like there's 3 really good cheap stacks today. It's the Rangers, the Brewers, and I would throw the Diamondbacks into the mix. I think they're every bit as good as the Brewers and pretty close to the Rangers. Mm-hmm. And then you have kind of the high end stuff that's expensive but good. You have the Phillies, you have the Angels. And I'm with him on Padres, Braves, Astros being really good, but in tougher matchups, and their ownership's going to be depressed because of it. But they're reasonably enough priced for what those teams are, and they project just as well as any other team on the slate, basically. So I like them a lot too.
The other team that needs to be mentioned is the Orioles.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone I've listened to, myself included, have said what's the stack you're worried you're going to be underweight on? Everyone says the Orioles. I still think they're going to be kind of popular, and I kind of like them. It's just I don't know. It's a weird team somehow. It's tough to pay for Mullins, Rutschman, and Mountcastle on this slate, and you kind of need those guys in your stack. So I do like the Orioles, but they're kind of a drop below those top teams for me.
Okay, very good. Carty, I want to go position by position. First, a shout out from Eric. It says Carty gets props for the Vladdy and Chapman home run calls the other night. I don't even know if you remember that or you even care, but you get props for it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, let's go position by position, and we're going to put you on the spot for more home run calls later today because we don't just let you, you did it once, good for you. We make you do it every single night, Carty. Let's start, though, going around the horn, starting with the catcher position for me.
So kind of the top tier is Adley Rutschman and JT Realmuto. They're really expensive, though, and there's a lot of other expensive stuff to like on this slate, so I don't think you have to pay up to them. I think this is a spot that you can definitely punt. Gabriel Moreno is a pretty decent catcher, and he's 2.4K in this really good weather in Arizona, and so I'm fine just going all the way down to him if you want. You kind of have mid-range guys if you want to do that instead. You have William Contreras, you have Jonah Heim, but I kind of think that's kind of the catcher pool unless you're putting someone in your stack.
Very good. Who was that in the GIF that we?
That was Realmuto. That's
okay.
I wish I could remember the name. It was they called in some pitcher from the bullpen that he was unhappy about, and he.
Yeah, well, the best part was the guy, from at least what I can recall, is the dude's thing is that he sprints out from the bullpen like kind of a jackass.
I think so. I don't remember specifically, but yeah, it was something like that. He's
sprinting out, and the catcher looks over and sees him coming, and it just gives that look like, oh my God, this freaking guy.
So
he sees him, he's like, oh. it's so good. So I'm sure somebody watching knows who it is. Jared Hughes apparently is
all right.
Your guy, but it's just such a funny little moment. You can read so much just from that little facial expression. Okay, Carty, Cheese, rather talk me through catcher.
So yeah, I agree that certainly Rutschman and Realmuto are the guys, but you can't really prioritize spending at catcher. William Contreras is definitely my favorite play for the salary, followed by Jonah Heim. I like those guys almost as much as Rutschman and Realmuto. On the cheap end, I'm also fine with Moreno. I'm fine with Higashioka. If Francisco Alvarez is playing for the Mets, I would have him in there as well.
Very good. First base, please.
So it's a strange day in that there's a crazy ton of great expensive plays, but almost all of them are in the outfield. And first and third are a little bit weaker than normal. If I just rank players overall with not worrying about position or salary, my top 12 guys are outfielders, and first base comes kind of far down. So sure, Vlad and Alonso and Olsen, you can play them anytime, but they're not really priorities at all compared to the outfield today. Now on FanDuel, they're cheaper. Like Vlad's 37. So I think maybe you can play him there. On the DK side, I would just rather play Rowdy Tellez or Christian Walker. They're so much cheaper, or Mountcastle's a little cheaper. But to me, and it looks like the bat agrees, like Tellez and Walker, more or less the same as Vlad and Olsen and Goldschmidt. So just play the cheaper guys and spend in the outfield. That's what I'm doing.
Makes plenty of sense. Carty, I assume you're in agreement, as your elaborate system is in agreement.
Yeah. None of the first basemen project especially well, and the top 8 guys are within like 3/4 of a point of each other. So you definitely don't have to spend on these top guys. Like she said, they can go off at any time, but the cheaper guys are just as good. And the 2 that really stick out the most are like Tellez, Christian Walker, maybe Anthony Rizzo's kind of in that mix too, but Walker in particular is the cheapest on both sites of all those guys. So I think he's the guy. You have an extreme hitters umpire. You have the roof open at 86 degrees. Oh my God, in Arizona. Lugo's like fine, but he's not like anything amazing. And so that's kind of first base.
Every year there's one of these guys that the price just stays ridiculously low for no reason. Like Walker's not even playing badly. I mean, he's got like double-digit points almost every other game at least. And the price just sits there for kind of no reason.
Yeah.
Second base.
So Marcus Semien is the top guy at second base. On DraftKings, he is a large amount more expensive than basically everyone else viable on the slate. It's possible to get up to him. You certainly don't have to. On FanDuel, where he's 3.7, he is a lot more attainable. He's leading off. He's got the platoon advantage against JP Sears, and it's a good spot. So Semien is fantastic. On DraftKings, though, if you need to save some money, and I guess the same guy too on FanDuel, he's 2.9. He's 3.9 on DraftKings. Bryson Stott is leading off for Philly. Philly is the top offense of the day. They are facing a very bad pitcher. It's a good park for power, and so Bryson Stott is definitely the guy you spend down to, in my opinion. On DraftKings, if you need to go like all the way down, you have Bryce Terang, who's like a prospect, I think, right? I mean, I don't really care about prospects, but he's a prospect.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
He'll steal a base or two.
Yeah, and he's in a pretty good park, decent enough park against a mediocre pitcher, and he's super cheap. So like he's fine. But in cash, you really don't have to do anything other than that. In GBPs, you can always take shots on Javi Baez for 2.5K on FanDuel, or I like Ketel Marte quite a bit today, either as a one-off or in those Arizona stacks, as I said I like. So that's second.
Okay, very good. Cheese, I want your thoughts. But first, a quick pause. I'm being told we need to get those likes up. These are rookie numbers. We got to pump those numbers up. Literally 2 of the sharpest minds in fantasy baseball giving free content right now. So just hit that thumbs up for us. And I already called a postponement. I called it even though it happened before lock and it would have been fine. Hit a thumbs up for this amazing free content. Cheese, second base, please.
Yeah, mostly it's, again, just pretty hard to argue with. Semien is the spend up. Stott is the probably cash game play on DK. The other guy that I like a lot is Gleyber Torres. The Yankees are interesting, mostly because Kikuchi is kind of a wild card at this point. Like he's back to all of a sudden looking really good through 3 starts. So maybe he kind of turns around this year. But based on what he did last year, I love the Yankees. So that's kind of one of those GPP spots I want to be in on Torres. But yeah, Semien and Stott are the plays.
Okay, take me to third base, Cheese.
So it's kind of like first, where it's good, but compared to the outfield, Devers is a spend up. Sure, I like him, but not as much as Judge, Alvarez, et cetera, that we're going to see in the outfield. So I'm mostly in the sort of 4K range on DK and the 3K range on FanDuel, which is on FanDuel, as much as I love Zac Gallen, like Manny Machado for 2,900 is kind of silly.
Yeah.
And then Bregman for 3K is kind of silly. Even Austin Riley against Hunter Brown is only 3-3. I like Josh Young and Rendon and Suarez quite a bit. They're all sitting at that same salary. So Devers is just so unnecessary on FanDuel and on DK where he's 6,000. And all those other guys I mentioned are more like 4,000. I'm playing a lot more Josh Young and Suarez on DK. And then trying to make sure I get a couple Matt Chapmans in there. But that's kind of that.
Very good. Carter, your thoughts at third?
It's like she said, it's very bunched up. So like the top guys, you really don't have to go out of your way for. Did you talk about Manny Machado's Cheese? I don't think
the FanDuel price. Yeah,
FanDuel. It's silly.
The FanDuel price on him is absurd. Like it's Gallen, sure, but it's also 86 degrees and he's Manny Machado and he's 2.9K. So I think he's your cash guy there, but you can really play any of them. You can play Rojas, you can play Bregman, Riley, Young, Rendon, Witt, Suarez. Like they're all like the same basically. So
yeah.
And I'm with Cheese on DraftKings. Josh Young is probably the guy, but I think you can also go further down if you want. You have Brett Beatty for the Mets for pretty cheap, and you have Jace Peterson for like really cheap. He's against John Gray, sure, but Gray is a guy who will allow stolen bases, and Peterson has speed, and so I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of third.
Very good. Take me to shortstop, Carty.
So yesterday we had the Fernando Tatis was 2K on DraftKings thing.
I can't wait to talk to you guys. But post-lock, I want to talk to you both about that for what it's worth. But continue, Carty.
Yeah. They have raised his price tonight. He's 5.1K, but he projects as the best on the slate by the bat by a good amount. So even though he's 5-1 on DraftKings, that is still
pause. I asked this partly just because of his projection today. Where does the bat have him overall, all batters, period? Context neutral.
Let me take a quick context neutral.
Yeah.
In terms of like real world context neutral WOBA, he's like top 3 somewhere. He might be fourth even. Yeah, he's very he thinks he's very, very good. So yeah, he's against Gallen, but again, still it's a decent park. It's great weather, and he's really, really, really good at baseball. He's just back from injury, sure, and it was a very scary injury. I had a lot of concerns about him coming into the year, but he really tore apart AAA. So that eases my concerns a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine playing him here. On FanDuel, where you have some of these other guys kind of in the top tier, like quite a bit cheaper than him. Like you have Trey Turner almost 1K cheaper than Tatis on FanDuel. And so I'm fine just going down to Turner or going down to Willy Adames or something like that. You can play, I guess, like you can play like Volpe. You can play Javi Baez like in that 2K range. But I think in cash, you're really probably just playing like Tatis or Turner. And on DraftKings, I think you're probably just playing Tatis. Volpe's fine. Baez is fine there too. But that I think you can make it a point to prioritize shortstop here.
Okay. I thought we were going to get a Volpe.
I think Steve wants Francisco Lindor is what I'm guessing.
Was that who he was? Someone was getting pet on the head. That was a Lindor there?
He was doing the petting, I believe.
Doing the petting, okay. Cheese, who are you petting at shortstop?
So what I will say is I'm not as high on Tatis as the bat. I would put him basically in a 3-way tie with Turner and Adames. Like those are the 3 guys I want the most, with Lindor pretty darn close. So call it a top 4. On FanDuel, I probably wouldn't play Tatis at shortstop, even if I was playing him. In a San Diego stack, I'd want Bogarts anyway. But I think Turner is the play there. On DraftKings, I've mentioned the Brewers a bunch. Like I'm just playing way too much Brewers. It's just one of those days. I just have my couple teams, and if they do poorly, then I just go to bed early, and that's pretty great too. So Willy Adames.
Okay, very good. Take me to the outfield, Cheese.
Okay, so this is what I've been talking about with all these other positions where you don't need to spend up. You don't need to spend up. Well,
now you do.
Tatis is an outfielder as well. If you want that, you got Schwarber, Trout, Acuna, Judge, Alvarez, Tucker, Soto, on and on and on. To kind of rank them for me, I would say Schwarber is probably the chalk, and I would say he's my favorite, but I don't think anything needs to be chalk. So I'm going to go
on FanDuel at 3-1. You wouldn't say Schwarber should be chalk?
No, he on FanDuel is the price is kind of silly. He
Price
should
is
be chalk. Yes,
absurd.
Like, I was looking at DK.
Yeah,
That's kind of like the Christian Walker thing on DK. Like, there's no reason. Like, they're just not moving his price up no matter what, and I don't know why. On DK, I was looking at DK where he's 6,000. They're all 6,000. So to me, I go Trout, Judge, Alvarez, and then Schwarber. Just like give me superstars, and just give me whichever superstars are not as crazy popular. And that's not even getting to, Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez. All these guys are great. But mostly where I can make it work, I want Trout, Judge, Alvarez. And then you get a little bit cheaper. The other FanDuel price we'll mention next to Schwarber is Juan Soto at 33. Like Soto and Machado just make that San Diego's, even just a mini stack, so crazy cheap. It's weird. But Adolis Garcia is the other guy that I love at kind of a mid-tier price on both sites. And then what do you know, Kevin? The Brewers, I love. I don't really like Yelich so much on DK, but I love Jesse Winker on DK. But on FanDuel, Yelich is cheap. So I'm using a lot of those Brewers outfielders. And they also have on the DK side, super cheap Texas outfielders are my favorite ones. There's super cheap outfielders everywhere. But as much as possible, I want 2 expensive outfielders, maybe 1 cheap one.
Okay. Michael says, is Buxton an avoid due to weather? First, you're going to have to tell me where he's playing. I assume
he's
Minnesota.
in Minnesota. Yeah.
So if he's an avoid, it's not because we think the game is postponed. It's because it's not great.
It's cold. And so for as absolutely horrendous as Trevor Williams is, he's horrible against lefties. He's not actually horrible against righties. So Buxton is like the FanDuel price still makes him playable. But officially, no, he's not in that top tier for me with the other guys I mentioned.
I'm trying to even find where the bet has him.
Yeah, he's pretty far down there.
He's like way down.
Okay.
I mean, he's below Max Kepler in the same game for that reason. Like Williams against lefties really is the worst pitcher of all time right now. But against righties, he's actually pretty good. So.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Carty, walk me through your thoughts on the outfield, please.
Schwarber's a lock on FanDuel. Even on DraftKings and cash, I would play Schwarber. He projects as the top guy on the slate. There is a kind of that top tier that Cheese mentioned. He's not like a lot better than these other guys. The bat would put Ronald Acuna in that tier of guys that Cheese mentioned, though, along with like Trout, Judge, Alvarez. So yeah, Schwarber for sure. In that Arizona game, we talked about Tatis. I mean, he's better at short, but in the outfield, like if you're looking to make it different somehow, like play him in the outfield, most people have him at short is fine. Corbin Carroll on the other side of that game at 4-2. I really like the Arizona stack. I really like a San Diego stack, honestly, too, in GPPs. We talked about like Marcus Semien batting leadoff. You have Robbie Grossman hitting second, and on DraftKings, he's 2.7K. So I like him quite a bit. That Milwaukee stack that Cheese was talking about, you have Yelich, you have, all those guys are good. The Juan Soto price on FanDuel is silly. Play him. And Adolis Garcia in your Texas stacks, or even just as a one-off with his power, is great. Max Kepler, like we mentioned, is good. Anthony Santander on FanDuel at 2.7, I think is a good play. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. Like there's a lot of good spots for hitting tonight, and outfield is pretty loaded.
Okay, very good. I do want to get some home run takes from you guys. So Cheese, start thinking. In the meantime, Carty, I'm going to put you to work. What cheap outfielder do you like the best? DK GPP 3-2 or under?
DK GPP outfielder 3-2 or under. Let me find 3.2.
Should I have made Cheese
Jesse
do
Winker.
So it's Robbie Grossman.
Oh, Grossman. Okay. Cheese, your vote was Winker.
Winker 1, Grossman 2.
Okay. All right. Those are both. There you go. You got two good options there in that range. Hey, let's get some home run picks. Cheese, you're up first. Is main? I don't know what that means.
Everyone. So every outfielder. A little sneaky. I'll go Dan Vogelbach.
Okay, very good. Carty, you got one for me?
Schwarber is the guy who has the best chance because he's Schwarber, and this spot is amazing. Off the radar kind of guy is probably like Adolis Garcia.
Very good. Joseph says no jokes. No jokes, guys?
No.
No.
Not for me.
No. All right. Hey, let's get to some QQs. If we have a GIF, now would never be the time. If you got any questions, if you have any questions, bring it in. Not that question. Now I see what you're doing there, Steve. Let's go ahead and take some of these QQs. What time is lock? Geez, is it 5 after or like randomly 7 after? Or something silly?
I think it's 5.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
All right.
Yeah,
well, then
Phillies game's at 7:05. Yeah.
That gives us about 9 minutes to get into some QQs. As always, I'm starting over on our Discord because that is where all the cool kids hang out. Also, don't forget to sign up for the Fanduel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. When I was up in Nashville, I signed up for Fanduel Sportsbook, took advantage of their bonus bets, and absolutely raked. It was super fun. I highly recommend that you do exactly that. Now to the QQs. By the way, I raked betting Jalen Brunson overs the entire weekend, and you should do that tonight. I can't tell you it's a guarantee, but it's a smart play. FanDuel GPP, Tatis Grossman Cheese or J-Rod Stott?
Tatis Grossman.
Okay. All right. Stack in Texas and Philly. Do you want Nate Lowe or Bomb on DK? Boom.
I would take Bohm.
Chinatown says, hey, I missed the pitching conversation right at the top. If Cheese played cash, he would play Nola and who?
I mean, ideally Ohtani, but realistically not because of the salary. I would do John Gray.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash, this is a 3v3 for you here, Cardi. You ready? Real Muto, Machado, Ward, or Milwaukee Contreras, Jung, and Garcia?
I mean, I don't think this is a day to play a catcher in cash on FanDuel, so I don't really love either of these, but I guess it's probably the first one.
Okay, but good answer. Good analysis. DK Cash question right back to you, Cheese. Walker, and I'm saying Jung, but I believe it's Young, right?
It's actually, I prefer if you say Jung, though, because
There's
if you
so
say
many
Jung, I'm going to
Youngs.
start looking around so let's just
Why
all
are you
admit that
envy?
we understand what his name is, but say Jung, honestly.
That's fine. I like that. I think that'll make it easier, and I think it'll be fun when people yell at me in the chat and say, hey, dummy weatherman, you don't know how to pronounce it. I was like, I don't like baseball. Leave me alone. It'll be a good time. Anyways, DK Cash 3v3, Walker, Jung, and Bubba Thompson, or Tellez, Jace, and Winker?
That's pretty close. I would go Tellez, Jason Winker.
Very good. Ball says, DK Cash, if Alvarez is in the lineup, do you like him more than Moreno, Cardi?
Probably not. He's like 500 more expensive, I think. And I mean, I guess it would depend where he's hitting. Like if he's in there, he's probably going to be hitting like 8th or 9th. If he's somehow like 5th or something, then maybe he's there. But I think it's going to be Moreno. Very
good. All right. FanDuel GPP Cheese, 4th Ranger after Jung, Garcia, and Simeon is?
So it's close enough that you can build around that and let positions dictate. If you can just take anyone, I actually like Jonah Heim next, even if you don't need the catcher.
Very good. All right. DK single entry, top stack to win it all. I'll take this from both of you. Cheese, I feel like the team that you have is Milwaukee, but that's not the advice you would give because it's not very likely. You just have it.
No, it's likely enough. That's still the one I would say.
Okay, very good. Cardi, if you had one stack to win it all, where like you're factoring ownership and all these other things.
I'm just going to go with Philly. The Bats ownership doesn't think any team is going to be especially chalky. It likes Philly the best, and it doesn't even have them as the chalkiest team. It has them second, so I'll just take Philly.
Very good. All right. DK Cash question. Cheese to you, sir. Turner Grossman or Tatis Carroll?
Tatis Carroll.
Is Drury okay, Cardi? And FanDuel Cash is the last piece. Landing on Drury.
Did not even consider him once today.
Okay. I'm going to go with
probably not in cash.
Yeah. All right. FanDuel GPP, either outfield or util. So I guess we just say outfield. 3,500 or less. Cheese. FanDuel util.
Well, that's tough because almost everyone is, and some of these guys should already be in the lineup. But like Schwarber is the obvious one. Then I don't know, Soto. Rowdy Tellez. Like almost everyone we mentioned is under 3,500. Honestly.
Okay. One of those dudes.
Make sure you have Schwarber.
Yeah. All right. FanDuel GPP, Carty, Byron Buxton or Anthony Santander?
Santander.
Very good. Cheese, we got a am I stupid question. Am I stupid? I've got a Tiger stack to fit in a Philly stack with Ohtani on DK.
No. Tigers are viable, cheap nonsense. I mean, it's Tyler Wells. It's not like some superstar. And they're super cheap. So I think that's fine.
Very good. All right. DK single entry, Carty. What about Pavin Smith on DK? He's even cheaper than Walker, and he's been raking lately.
I mean, we all know how I feel about hot streaks,
especially
from guys who are historically bad at baseball. But what was the context? GPP, it said?
Yeah, it was DK single entry. It's cheap.
I mean, he's fine. He's cheap-ish. I like the spot in general. I like an Arizona stack more than I like just like a one-off Pavin Smith, but like you're fine to do it, I guess.
Okay, very good. Cheese, how's Kirby against lefties? How is he? How's he doing?
He's very good. Actually, even a little better than against righties. Like 26% strikeouts and great control, and he's a good pitcher.
The fact that you just knew that off the top of your head is hilarious to me.
Well, I've looked at that twice.
Oh, okay.
Like recently. So I wouldn't have just known that if I hadn't looked recently. So
all right, that's fair. Still impressive. Grossman or Tavares in the outfield for the last spot. Carty, I think your answer was Grossman there, right?
I'd take Grossman, yeah.
Yep. All right. Cheese, FanDuel GPPs. Would you mind Brian Anderson as a fourth person in your Milwaukee stack, or would you rather Winker? I've already got Tellez, Adames, and Yelich. My outfield is loaded with Kyle and Trout, so was leaning Anderson.
Yeah, I like that question because I came to that same spot several times with these Brewer stack and with every stack where because the outfield is so much better, I like filling my infield with a stack, even if I like the pieces slightly less. So, yes, well, I do prefer Winker to Anderson. I prefer the outfield enough that, play Anderson and get the big outfielders.
Okay, very good. Jumping over to the YouTube chat, make sure you hit us with a thumbs up here. Eric says, I'm landing on Kerry Carpenter in cash. Is that okay as a last piece?
I'm going to say no. I mean, we didn't mention Carpenter once.
There's enough cheap guys below him.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the worst thing, but like there's guys that I think we'd both take ahead of him that are even a little cheaper.
Yeah,
mostly like the Texas guys, especially.
Yeah. All right, Cheese. I'm coming to you. Question from Lil Tunchi: Witt or Correa?
Ooh, I'm going Correa. Like it's the weather outweighs facing Ohtani.
Yeah.
But
all right.
I still do kind of like Witt. I mean, if I'm going to play a player against Ohtani, it's probably Witt.
Okay. Cash games, Carty, this one's for you. We got less than a minute or roughly a minute until lock here. Cash game on DK, Carroll or Austin Hayes?
Carroll.
David R. says Schwarber Cave, Cheese, or Caskey Marsh in the Philly outfield?
Schwarber Cave.
Very good. Texas punt outfielder, Cheese. Cheese. Bubba Thompson or Leody Tavares?
I'll go Bubba first, but both are playable.
Okay, Carty, any interest in a sneaky Met stack? Very sneaky.
I mean, they're fine. Like they're in the mix. There's teams I like more, but you can stack the Mets.
All right, DK, GPP, Cheese, Garcia, or Soto?
I prefer Garcia, but I like them both.
Okay, Luke Cage says, anybody playing Seattle? Anyone? DK, GPP, anyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially on FanDuel, like Suarez and Teoscar are free, which a lot of people are free, but I'm playing them. Again, they're not like in my top like half dozen stacks, but they're pretty close behind that.
Gotcha. Okay, nobody go anywhere. I have an important question. Last night was the Tatis game, right? So Tatis' projected ownership was like something around 50%. And he was, I think, stone cold man. He was like 2K, right? And the question was, Do you play him or do you not in tournaments? And at first I was like, of course you play him. He's the best player at a super cheap price. Obviously you do. And then I saw the projected ownership at 50%. And I thought, I feel like these guys would tell me you should literally never play a dude at 50% projected ownership. Like never play a hitter in any circumstance. But I'm curious what you thought about it and what you would have done.
I mean, I would never say no circumstances. Like, even if he's going to be super chalky, if you're playing, a really off the board stack and like a low own SP2, like you can play Tatis and you're fine. You wouldn't play him when the rest of your pieces are chalky. And that ownership was kind of silly for a hitter, even though it's a great hitter and he's super cheap and it was a clear, like egregious misprice. Like it is still baseball. And, he went 0 for 4, right?
Yeah, 0 for 5, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheese, what were your thoughts on it?
It does need to be factored in that it was only a 5-game slate, which is totally different than playing a 50% owned player on a 12-game slate. I played a lot yesterday. I had 50-some percent Tatis, and most of those lineups had like $3,000 in salary left. And basically what I said in the article, it was when I looked at those plays, there were only 5 viable shortstops on the whole slate. And Tatis was clearly the best one at any salary. And there's a lot of lineup builds. Like, I don't really care if someone has the same shortstop as me, if they don't have the same lineup as me. I just want the best lineup. I think theoretically you don't play a hitter at 50% ownership, but also theoretically the best lineup wins. Not even theoretically, but actually and for real. Whoever scores the most points wins.
Yeah.
And no matter what, people talk so much about ownership that the player's never going to be as high owned as you think. And he wasn't actually as high owned as you think. He really wasn't.
40.
Yeah. It didn't even end because everyone's talking themselves out of him. And that's going to happen.
Yep.
So I'm just building my lineups and knowing I'm not going to play every chalk piece with him. Yeah. But yeah, I played Tatis.
Okay, very good. I was curious about how both of you would have handled that, so I'm glad I got to bring that up and learn how you actually did handle it. Good stuff, guys. We've hit the lock, I do believe, and we've caught up on just about all the questions. We'll do one more real quick. This is going to be a Cheese question here. Post-lock, Cheese, with so many people these days talking about optimizing and optimizers and these fancy things like the Bat Extreme. Ooh. Are there any edges or overlooked strategies for the hand builders out there? How does the hand builder take down the optimizer?
The first thing
I want a hand builder and uses projections. Duh.
So last night specifically, one place where some people that use optimizers and don't change night to night would not have ever left $3,000 salary on the table. Like, that's one very obvious, clear thing you need to look at on a Tatis type slate. Like, if I max out salary, my Tatis lineups are going to be super chalk. So that's one thing. Like, personally, most days I don't even touch an optimizer, and I usually have like 50 or 60 lineups, and they're all hand built. And the first 40
you are not building 60 lineups, are you really?
Yeah,
so old school.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Like, no joke.
Wow.
That's how I do it. And so far, for the last decade or so, it's worked.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it takes a lot of time.
He is the rare exception to this, where he can do that and pull it off.
Yeah.
Most people are not going to be successful.
And I can't do that in other sports. I mean, I wouldn't do that in basketball. I mean,
right. It is your encyclopedic
knowledge. I can't, I don't know the stuff. But to answer the question, real specifically, leaving salary, I think is one big difference. Like, if you use the optimizer and you slide that slider up to use all but 500, you're going to leave a lot of things on the table. But likewise, if you put it too far down, a lot of slates, if you don't check your lineups, you're going to get some goofy leftover salary that you really shouldn't have left. So I think that's one of the tricky parts, is playing with getting the salary right. That's not that I can do when I'm hand building. I don't know how to do it and get it the way I want it with the optimizer, honestly. I would have to build like 500 groups, which would take me longer than building my lineups.
Right. Carty, is there anything you want to add from the other side of that where like you think there could be an advantage, a way that you could be beat?
Because using GPP or winning GPPs using an optimizer is not as simple as just like, okay, well, I got these projections. I'm just going to click a button and then I'm going to expect to win the GPP. Like the projections are a necessary baseline starting point for just about everybody. And even though Cheese isn't a projection guy, he's so good at this and he has such a good feel for it because he's done it so long and knows so much. Like you can listen to us on the shows. Like I'm doing projections. He's doing his thing. And
my rankings are essentially projections.
Yes. They're like a projection in his head. Yeah.
Yes. If you're just like a random guy who's like, I don't need projections, I'm just going to use my intuition. Like your intuition's probably not as good as Cheese's and you're probably not doing a good job. So like use the projections. They're there for you. They're really good. And combine that with good game theory. You know, it's not like you're just clicking a button. Like you're looking at what the projections say and you're building smart lineups using them.
Yeah. The trick is it's really hard to get the lineup builder to give you what you want it to give you. Like you have to really learn where you're doing with your groups, what are you doing with your exposures. Like
that's an important part of it. You're not just clicking a button and saying, well, the bat's giving me 100% of this guy. Like, I guess I got to do that. Like, no, like use the settings to kind of massage it and make the lineup the way you want to do it based on good game theory.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I do think that's something that Blender talks about all the time, right? Is that,
I mean, that's what he's trying to walk you through on his shows that he does. And really kind of like Carty said, like, as much as he and I argue about projections, more or less, we're doing kind of the same thing, coming to it in a different way, whether you're doing it by hand or with projections or the way I do it with looking through the games. Like you're getting these players are good and better than these players. And then how do I build a lineup out of that to compete with other people? Like it is kind of the same difference. Okay. I do it with a notebook because I don't understand how computers work.
Right. It's a good reason to use a notebook. Yeah, good stuff. All right. For what it's worth, apparently Vladdy Daddy is already gone. Yardy Barty. We're going to get on out of here with that. So for Cheese, for Carty, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.